Chapter 769. After so many years, his personal disciple had become the son-in-law of his senior brother, Zhong Chichen. Seeing the fourth-ranked titled Dark Ghost speak to Chu Yao in a flattering manner, Yu Yuan knew that Chu Yao had become a popular figure in the Medicine God sect. On this trip from Azure Phoenix City to the Tranquil Continent, Nie Tian had thought that he might run into someone he knew. Once a cultivator reached the shattering profound realm, their vitality magnetic field would change greatly, and they would have a long lifespan. 300 years was unattainable for mortals, but for people like Zhong Chichen, Luo Yu, and Chu Yao, who had stepped onto the path of cultivation early on, it was not a long time. After all, he had stayed on this continent for a long time in his previous life, and he had met many people on this continent. He knew that as long as he stayed on the Tranquil Continent for a long time, he would definitely meet someone he knew. But he did not expect to meet Luo Yu and now Chu Yao in the Tranquil Continent. He adjusted his state of mind and suppressed the gloominess in his heart bit by bit. The black scythe ghost was still there and obeyed Chu Yao. Through his communication with Yui, he knew that this titled Dark Ghost was very difficult to deal with. Consort Han was temporarily unavailable, and with Blood Moon's strength and those fiendish demons, they did not have much of a chance of winning. Yu Yuan kept her calm and multitasking. She was still thinking about how she should adjust the trajectory of the soul-severing slash that she had just executed because she wasn't familiar with it. Would the soul-breaking slash be able to scare off the black scythe ghost? Chu Yao. Yuan Lianyao's expression shook slightly. Her soul-form body moved closer to Yu Yuan out of uneasiness and said softly, Yu Yuan, he is the disciple of Zhong Chichen, the master of the Medicine God sect. He is in the late stage of the Soul Wander realm. How do you know him? Do you have a grudge against him? She knew Yu Yuan far too well, and she was so close to her as well. Therefore, she had already sensed Yu Yuan's emotions and guessed what was going on. Yu Yuan, this Chu Yao has cultivated for more than 300 years and has yet to condense a yang spirit. He looks unremarkable, but there is another reason, Yuan Lianyao said softly. Rumor has it that he is about to become a divine alchemist. Most of his time and energy is spent on refining pills, so his cultivation progress is slow. The medicine master of the medicine sect, the one surnamed Zhong, hasn't refined pills for many years. Chu Yao is in charge of refining all the rare and high-grade pills that come to the Medicine God sect for medicine. He has great prestige in the entire vast world. The Freedom Realm cultivators of the three high sects, the Demon Palace and the Demon Palace, all approve of him and ask him for help with certain pills. We can't afford to offend him. At this point, Yuan Lianyao's beautiful face was filled with bitterness and helplessness. Lord Feng Yao, Lord Imperial Preceptor. Even though his cultivation is higher than his status is still lower. She sighed. The Crimson Devil sect shouldn't offend Chu Yao for me. No matter how much she couldn't accept it, Yuan Lianyao knew that it was the truth. Because of Chu Yao's skill in refining pills and his relationship with Zhong Chichen, everyone in the world wanted to curry favor with him. The higher the cultivation of a cultivator and the stronger the sect, the more they needed to build a good relationship with someone like Chu Yao. The Red Devil School wouldn't fall out with Chu Yao for Yuan Lianyao. Yu Yuan's expression was cold as he nodded slightly. He noticed that after Chu Yao said those words, he arrogantly flew to the back of Een Mountain, as if he wanted to rest for a while and let the black-side ghost deal with him and Yuan Lianyao. This meant that Chu Yao was just curious about them and didn't really care about them. Thinking of this, Yu Yuan's mood became even more complicated. How could he not know how honorable a person who was about to become a god-grade alchemist and had the potential to become the next sect master of the Medicine God sect was? An alchemist who could refine god-grade pills meant everything in the world of Haoran. Not to mention Feng Yao and Zhou Tsangmin, even the current sect master of the Red Devil School and Mo Yan's father had to give him some face. This was because primordial soul realm experts might have a need for God-grade pills at certain times. God-grade pills would make carefree realm cultivators rush for them and make primordial soul realm experts bow their heads at certain times. As it turned out, Chu Yao had already become the most dazzling existence in this world 300 years later. I must find out. This thought kept repeating in Yu Yuan's mind. He secretly made up his mind to find out if Chu Yao had a part to play in the reincarnation pill. According to Zuan, after his death in his previous life, his other 2 disciples mysteriously disappeared. Zuan suspected that his first and second disciples were secretly imprisoned or secretly killed by Chu Yao. This was because not long after the disappearance of the 2 disciples, Chu Yao and Zhong Chichen's beloved daughter got married. From then on, they embarked on another glorious path and skyrocketed to the 9 levels of heaven. You die first. While Yu Yuan was deep in thought, the ghost whose soul was attached to the 28 ebony pearls suddenly stared at Yuan Lianyao. Since Brother Chu has said so, even if I kill you, the Red Devil School won't say anything. The black-side ghost's soul shadows appeared abnormally clear from within the ebony pearls. His attention seemed to be fixed on Yuan Lianyao's Yin soul in an instant. This titled ghost seemed to have 28 faces, and all of them looked at Yuan Lianyao. And Yu Yuan. Suddenly Yu Yuan felt dizzy. Soul shadows howled in the depths of his eyes. A wave of mind intent passed through the fiendish demon cauldron and acted on him. He was instantly confused and didn't know who he was. Come out! The black-side ghost called out softly. Yu Yuan didn't move, but Yuan Lianyao's Yin soul immediately flew out of the cauldron and towards him. I changed my mind at the last minute. Imprison this girl and bring her to me later. Chu Yao's cold voice sounded from behind Yin Mountain. The black-side ghost, who was about to erase Yuan Lianyao's soul, didn't say anything after hearing this and only laughed strangely. Whoosh! Yuan Lianyao's Yin soul suddenly fell into one of the ebony pearls and disappeared. At the same time, the 28 souls of the black-side ghost left the ebony pearls and gathered together to form an enormous ghost. A string of ebony pearls hung around the neck of the black-side ghost like a necklace. The 300-meter-tall black-side ghost grabbed the enormous scythe that was placed on Yin Mountain and swung it at the fiendish demon cauldron. I didn't summon it out of the cauldron. I smell another soul presence. It should be the cauldron's artifact soul. Not bad, it used to be the artifact soul of a divine-grade artifact. It will be a great tonic for me. The scythe swung down, and a dark gray river that looked like it was made of dense Yin energy rushed forward. The demon energy shield that enveloped Yu Yuan from the fiendish demon cauldron sizzled as if it was corroded by acid when it was hit by the dark gray river. A large hole had been melted in the magic energy light shield. Whoosh! The blade light of the scythe finally bloomed from the body of the scythe and rushed toward the hole in Yu Yuan's forehead. The sword art from before was very powerful. Unfortunately, it doesn't have enough power to continue. The black-side ghost laughed strangely and shook its head. I don't need the fiendish demon cauldron, but I can take it and trade it for rare spirit materials. As for this Yu Yuan, if I kill him, won't the 3 great sects, the Devil's Palace, and the Goblin Temple thank me and give me generous gifts? He has the scent of the giant beast essence amber in his body. Keep an eye on it. I want his corpse, Chu Yao said. Whatever you say, Brother Chu. Chapter 770. The pitch-black scythe's arc was extremely exaggerated. Before Yu Yuan truly woke up, it had already slashed down. The beautiful blade released a deep and mysterious luster. As the blade light shot towards Yu Yuan's forehead, a dark world quietly appeared behind the giant scythe. The dark world seemed to come from the scythe itself. Fierce ghosts could be vaguely heard from inside the dark world. Whoosh! 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 28 enormous demonic shadows appeared one after another from the dark world. They looked like ancient monsters from ancient legends. The 28 demonic shadows were all 300 meters tall. They seemed to be able to support heaven and earth, and they exuded an ancient and decaying aura. Whoosh! Ha! Roar! Some of the demonic shadows screamed, some cried, and some laughed wildly. All of the ghosts and spirits within 100 kilometers sensed it, and their souls trembled slightly. Whoosh! Then, a bright blade light flew towards Yu Yuan's forehead. The blade light was like lightning, and as it traveled, it created many wonders. Wherever the blade light passed, a vast world seemed to be carved out by the blade light, exuding a wild aura. At this critical moment, Yu Yuan, who had a blank expression, seemed to have a telepathic connection. He subconsciously raised his hand and used the opening of his scabbard to meet the blade light. The thousands of strands of sword intent that had settled at the bottom of the scabbard, which originated from a moon-severing realm cultivator, were suddenly disturbed. They didn't need Yu Yuan to give them any power. The strands of sword intent and sword soul resonated with each other and took the initiative to draw in Yu Yuan's spiritual power, flesh, blood, and soul awareness, and condense them into crimson sword light. Boom! The opening of the scabbard shone with brilliant light, like a beautiful crimson flower blooming. Space in the narrow area inside the cauldron where Yu Yuan was located suddenly twisted, and the flow of time seemed to be 100 times slower. The dazzling blade light that was flying towards Yu Yuan's glabella was getting closer and closer, inch by inch. Roar! Behind the giant crescent-shaped, pitch-black scythe, the 28 ancient monsters that had just formed the dark world suddenly let out shrill screams. Puff! 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 The black sandalwood beads around the black scythe ghost's soul's neck trembled violently. At this moment, his enormous ghostly body, which was formed from 28 souls, seemed to be torn apart by an invisible force. In the next moment, the split soul fell back into the black sandalwood bead. It was also at this time that a dazzling brilliance suddenly blossomed from Yu Yuan's sword scabbard, which was so bright that people could not open their eyes. Inside the fiendish demon cauldron, there seemed to be a small dazzling sun. In an instant, all the light exploded. Among the thousands of spirits and ghosts that were loyal to the Black Scythe Wraith, the ones with lower ranks were instantly turned into ashes. The ghostly spirits, which were at the level of heavenly ghosts, fled in pain, as if they had been burned by the sun. Yu Yuan! The Black Scythe Ghost's angry roar resounded from the 28 black sandalwood beads. This titled wraith, who was only second to Bai Gu in the Land of Terror, seemed to have never imagined that his fatal attack would be blocked by Yu Yuan's sword scabbard. Not only had Qin Lai blocked it, almost 1,000 sword intents had flooded into the crescent-shaped scythe the moment the scabbard came into contact with the bright blade beam. In that instant, his soul had actually been damaged because of this. Not many existences knew that the 28 black sandalwood beads that contained his soul and the crescent-shaped, pitch-black scythe were actually a set of artifacts. His soul could wander and disperse within the bead or the scythe. The 28 beads, the crescent-shaped scythe, and every wisp of energy could be connected and controlled by his soul thought. At any time, he could use the two artifacts of different shapes to deal a fatal blow to his opponent. Similarly, if any of the beads or any part of the scythe were damaged, his soul would feel the same. If one fell, all fell. If one rose, all rose. Black Scythe, suddenly, a dark shout resounded from tens of thousands of meters away. A purple shadow arrived at lightning speed. As it raised its hand, it struck out a translucent, icy seal. The seal shone like a tall iceberg and sank into the world of darkness behind the scythe. It fell into the 28 enormous monsters that exuded an ancient aura. Frost Thunder Seal. There seemed to be 28 black scythes that cried out in unison. Boom! Tens of thousands of thunderballs exploded in the dark world, and numerous dazzling ice pythons and lightning dragons washed over the dark world in a grandiose manner. The black scythe ghost's painful screams resounded from within the giant crescent-shaped scythe, the mouths of the monsters in the world of darkness, and the 28 black sandalwood beads. The black sandalwood beads even emitted light smoke and tiny sparks of electricity. Brother! Brother Chu! The black scythe ghost screamed as it called out to Chu Yao of the medicine god sect. It shouted hysterically, "A bunch of trash, kill them all! Are these things here to die?" And Ziqing stood in the world of darkness where the lightning dragons roared. Her purple divine armor shone with a light that no one dared to look directly at. She seemed to be stepping on the heads of enormous monsters, and the frost thunder seal that looked like a planet of lightning hung above her head. The frost thunder seal spun in the air and continued to scatter crystals of ice and lightning. Every ice and thunder crystal that fell into the dark world below turned into a lightning ball that was several acres large. They exploded with dazzling light of thunder and lightning, blasting the giant monsters that corresponded to the black scythe ghost's soul into pieces. It was a horrible sight to behold. The frost thunder seal of the minor thunder sky sect was infamous even in the outer realms of the universe. It made the heavenly demons tremble in fear. Even the ghostly spirits, heavenly ghosts, and underworld ghosts in the land of terror were helpless under the bombardment of the frost thunder seal. Many of the ghosts that wanted to attack Ziqing because of the black scythe ghost's orders were scared out of their wits when they saw the frost thunder seal above her head. How would they dare to approach her? Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh! Some of the smarter ghosts hesitated for a moment before charging towards the fiendish demon cauldron. "Kid, you're courting death! Damned human junior, how dare you plot against Lord Black Scythe? You're dead meat! Die!" The ghostly spirits with intelligence and heavenly ghouls cried out in a threatening manner. Just as they were about to charge towards the fiend demon cauldron, they reined in their horses and came to a halt. The ignorant earth ghosts and the dumb ghostly spirits charged into the fiendish demon cauldron. Inside the cauldron, Yu Yuan, who had just recovered, felt that all his strength had been drained. However, because Yuan Lianyao was trapped, he was furious. He yelled, "Kill them all!" "Okay," Yu Yi responded. Then, the center of the cauldron under Yu Yuan's feet turned into a dark and terrifying small world. Fiendish demons roared out. Those weak earth ghosts and a few ghost spirits who wanted to seize the opportunity to kill Yu Yuan were instantly surrounded by layers of fiend devils. When the 4 powerful heavenly ghosts saw this situation, they quietly retreated. As they retreated, they cursed and provoked Yu Yuan and Ziqing of the Blood God. At this time, Chu Yao, who had just hidden behind Yin Mountain and wanted to rest, was forced to appear again. He was a little annoyed. "I only have one question. And Ziqing, do you know that Yu Yuan is a traitor of Howren? There is no conclusive evidence." And Ziqing's expression was serious. Crackle, crackle. The frost thunder seal that was still bombarding the black scythe ghost quietly fell 3 inches above her head. Countless bolts of lightning and sparks of lightning flew towards the slowly shrinking frost thunder seal. And Ziqing, who knew Chu Yao's identity, hesitated for a moment before bowing to him. "Greetings, Senior Chu. I've heard of your name from my father. I didn't mean to offend you this time." Chu Yao's background was too great. Even if she was the goddess of the blood god, she had to give him the respect he deserved. After all, Chu Yao was someone who could become a god-level alchemist in the future. Chapter 771. Under the dusky sky, the purple armor on Ziqing's body released an incomparably dazzling light. There were purple and deep red patterns on the surface of the armor. They shone like galaxies and gave off an aura that could suppress the heavens, crush souls, and terrify heavenly demons. And Ziqing, who was in her spirit form, stepped on the giant heads and held the frost thunder seal in her hand. She looked like a god. The dark world beneath her feet fell apart. The ancient demons that corresponded to the black sickles wailed and roared as they shrank into specks of black light. The dots of black light sank back into the giant crescent scythe and turned into the souls inside the scythe. She didn't even look at the black scythe ghost, nor did she care about the black scythe ghost's angry roars. This girl, who came from the sect of the Blood God and had accompanied Yu Yuan for a few years as a maid, bowed and spoke to Chu Yao. Both she and Chu Yao deliberately ignored the black scythe ghost. You didn't really offend him. Chu Yao, who also appeared as a Yin soul, had an indifferent expression. Black Scythe is not a disciple of the Medicine God sect. He only has some dealings with the Medicine God sect. He is also not my subordinate. You injuring him has nothing to do with me. When he said this, the black scythe ghost, who was still howling, suddenly fell silent. Its soul that was scattered in the black sandalwood bead quietly disappeared. It was not in a hurry to appear. It seemed to feel wronged. He was working for Chu Yao. It was because of Chu Yao's orders that he imprisoned Yuan Lianyao of the Red Devil School and tried to kill Yu Yuan. But why did Chu Yao immediately cut ties with him when Enziching appeared? In this world, no one wants to go against the Medicine God sect. Enziching smiled. Her eyes were bright. Senior Chu, Yu Yuan and I are old friends. There is no conclusion as to whether he has betrayed the Howran world. I believe that as a member of the Medicine God sect, Senior Chu, you can't be bothered with this, right? Chu Yao pondered for a few seconds and nodded gently. Girlin, I'll give you face today. After saying that, he added, say hello to your father for me. Of course. Enziching's lips curled up in joy. I'm determined to get the white-boned ghost. Chu Yao's expression turned serious. Enziching hurriedly said, I didn't come here to help the white-boned ghost. That's good. Chu Yao's expression softened and he did not say anything else. He did not even inform the black scythe ghost as he flew away from the back of the Yin mountain. Once he left, the black scythe ghost's soul reappeared in the black sandalwood bead. Immediately, the string of black sandalwood beads and the giant crescent scythe were activated. From the looks of it, he was following Chu Yao. Whoosh! The fiendish demon cauldron suddenly sped up, heading straight for the string of black sandalwood beads. Inside the cauldron, Yu Yuan's face was ghastly pale, and his bright eyes dimmed. Yuan Lianyao, stay! Fiendish demons charged out of the cauldron one after another because of Yu Yuan's words. After the crescent scythe and the string of black sandalwood beads met, the black scythe ghost inside the bead seemed to sense it and immediately knew that Yu Yuan had used almost all of his strength to block the beam of light from his scythe. The black scythe ghost was confident that if he attacked again, Yu Yuan would not be able to withstand his next attack. As for the fiendish demons inside the cauldron, he would naturally let his subordinates deal with them. But when the black scythe ghost's attention shifted to Enziching, he immediately became worried. He was not afraid of the current Yu Yuan, but he was afraid of Enziching, who had a higher cultivation and wielded the frost and lightning seal and wore the purple divine armor. Enziching was the one who could severely injure or even destroy him. After all, Enziching, who had come with the frost and lightning seal, was an extraordinary person who had come to help the Chuling Ghost King fight against the other Ghost Kings. Enziching was in the soul-traversing realm, and an extraordinary one at that. Her divine armor was mysterious, and the frost and lightning seal was the nemesis of ghosts. Just now, Enziching had proven her strength. She had proven that she could use the frost and lightning seal to kill him, the fourth-rank titled ghoul. Sigh, forget it, forget it. Even if I save her, she won't be grateful to me. Suddenly, Enziching waved her hand as if she was shooing away a fly, indicating for the black scythe ghost to leave. You can do whatever you want with that sister from the Red Devil School. It's good to vent your anger on her. Yu Yuan's expression was gloomy. He was about to gather his strength again when he suddenly felt dizzy and exhausted. After a careful examination, he realized that holding the scythe and blocking the beam of light had used up almost all of his remaining strength. Right now, he could only rely on the fiendish demon cauldron and the fiendish demons. However, the black scythe ghost also had many subordinates he could use. Sighing in his heart, Yu Yuan yelled, Ziqing, tell him to release City Lord Yuan. The black scythe ghost, who was controlling the string of beads and the pitch-black scythe, was about to retreat. However, because of Yu Yuan's words, it suddenly stopped in the air. This titled ghoul saw the frost and lightning seal in Ziqing's hand, and it left her hand. After shrinking, the frost and lightning seal was only the size of a fist. In the black scythe ghost's eyes, it was no less than the lightning pool in the sky. Previously, when he thought of the terrifying power of the frost and lightning seal in the dark world, he was still in shock. How would he dare to provoke Ziqing? Therefore, he was forced to obediently stop and did not dare to move. Young master, are you talking to me? Ziqing's lips curled up slightly, her beautiful eyes full of smiles. She glanced at the fiendish demon cauldron. I remember what young master said. It's very hurtful. You clearly said that you don't want to see me anymore. Whenever you see me, you get annoyed and have a headache. Her mocking tone made Yu Yuan's head swell. He was full of depression. However, Yu Yuan knew that this demoness of the blood god was ruthless and could not be treated like a normal person. If he gave the wrong answer, she might really not care and let the black scythe ghost take Yuan Lianyao away. If the black scythe ghost really killed Yuan Lianyao's soul, it would be too late for Yu Yuan to regret it. I'm talking to you. I hope that you can let her out safely without any accidents, Yu Yuan said with a dark expression. Did you hear that? Ziqing smiled proudly. Then, she pointed at the string of black beads. I'm talking to you. You're called Black Scythe, right? Did you hear that or not? What? The Black Scythe ghost said blankly. You think you're worthy of being ranked behind White Bones? You're so stupid. Ziqing snorted coldly. Why aren't you obediently letting City Lord Yuan and Big Sister Yuan out for me? Big Sister Yuan is my sister by blood. If anything happens to her, I'll blast all of your souls into ashes. Rumble! Thunder suddenly roared in the depths of the ice thunder seal. Whoosh! Yuan Lianyao's Yin spirit suddenly flew out from a black sandalwood bead. The black scythe ghost was clearly frightened by the thunder. Once it released Yuan Lianyao's soul, it did not dare to hesitate and immediately flew away. The group of souls and ghosts that were attached to it hurriedly followed. Big Sister Yuan, are you all right? How dare the black scythe ghost imprison you? Ziqing made a fuss. She controlled the purple armor and suddenly approached. Her beautiful little face was full of concern and worry. I'm late. Don't blame me, sister. Don't blame me. With a complicated look, Yu Yuan looked at the pretentious little witch and rubbed the spot between her eyebrows in annoyance. His forehead, which had been locked by the scythe's saber light earlier, still felt a faint stinging pain. What was even more unbearable was that in such a dangerous situation, he and Yuan Lianyao had both been rescued because of Ziqing. It's because my cultivation is slightly weaker. I used up all my strength with one swing of my sword. Yu Yuan sighed inwardly. He knew that even if the titled ghouls in the Land of Terror were not as powerful as they were rated, they were not so weak that he could easily kill them. Don't give me that. Yuan Lianyao, who had just returned to the outside world from a dark world, overheard the conversation between Ziqing, Yu Yuan, and Black Sickle. After escaping, she felt annoyed for no reason when she saw Ziqing approaching her hypocritically. You saved me once. I'll remember this. I'll repay you in the future. You're treating me like an outsider. When you were in Dark Moon City, you took care of my young master. Shouldn't I help you? Ziqing smiled like a flower and said affectionately, Big sister, you weren't tortured by the black scythe's evil soul inside, were you? Yuan Lianyao said helplessly, I'm fine. That's good. That's good. I was so worried, Ziqing said, clutching her chest. Yu Yuan, what about Bai Gu? Yuan Lianyao ignored her. She frowned and said softly, In my opinion, we shouldn't go there anymore. With Chu Yao here, Bai Gu is most likely dead. It's useless even if you go. And Zicheng nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes. Chapter 772. Yu Yuan's brows furrowed as she suddenly fell silent. He had promised White Bones that he would do his best to help White Bones become a ghost king. And White Bones would help him gather many ghosts into the fiendish demon cauldron so that it could continue to evolve. For this, the two fought side by side several times and won easily. He also gained many fiendish demons through White Bones' conquest of the titled ghouls. Until he and White Bones met Luoho, who had become a ghost king and lost miserably. After parting ways in Luoho's realm, the tacit understanding between the two was more or less broken. White Bones was heavily injured and hid in his territory, using the vast Yin energy underground to recover his strength. Then, the news spread like wildfire, causing many ghosts that were wary of White Bones to move out. He had no obligation to continue rescuing White Bones. Luo Yu also reminded him that White Bones had a strange origin and was not tolerated by the Ghost Kings. If he insisted on being on the same side as White Bones, it would be difficult for him to advance in the Land of Terror. But, for some reason, he felt closer to White Bones. He vaguely felt that White Bones would be able to achieve great things in the Land of Terror. This feeling did not change even when he learned that Ghost King Luoho was half a disciple from his previous life. He also felt that it was strange and hard to understand, but his natural closeness to White Bones was still there. I'm afraid White Bones won't be able to escape this time. And Zicheng withdrew her smile and said with a serious expression, in White Bones' territory, Yin sunflower essence suddenly appeared, causing many ghosts to go crazy. She explained a little. The Yin mountains that White Bones had refined in the early years gave birth to Yin sunflower essence. White Bones saw those Yin mountains as his eyes, and could connect with them mentally. The Yin sunflower essence that was condensed from the Yin mountain that Bai Gu had cultivated was even more abundant and vast, shining like a star. She told Yu Yuan that the Yin sunflower essence was a legendary item that was extremely attractive to all spirits and ghosts. Many titled ghouls flocked to the Yin mountain that White Bones cultivated in, wanting to force White Bones out and refine Yin sunflower essence himself. White Bones actually came out to fight. Then, under the siege of so many ghosts of the same level, his injuries worsened. In the end, White Bones retreated to his Yin mountain. Due to the Yin sunflower essence's endless transformations, the Yin mountain suddenly became as solid as an impregnable fortress. Under the bombardment of the ghosts, it stood firm and unshakable. Not long after, Chao Jiaza of Xuantianzong arrived at the White Bone Ghost's territory with the Heavenly Palace seal. This man, the next sect master of Xuantianzong, had sent a subordinate of the Frigid Abyss Ghost King to deliver a message to all of the titled phantoms. He told them that the Yin Mountain Peak where the White Bones were hiding was connected to 17 Yin Mountain peaks that it had refined. Together, they formed a mysterious grand spell formation. Including Bai Gu's mountain, there were 18 Yin mountains, all of which were nurtured by Yin sunflower essence. If the Yin mountain where Bai Gu was hiding could not be destroyed for the time being, as long as they attacked the other 17 Yin mountains one by one, the power of the Yin mountain where Bai Gu was hiding would be greatly reduced. Eventually, the Yin mountain where Bai Gu was hiding would be destroyed as well. There are a total of 18 Yin mountains, each of which contains Yin sunflower essence. We have to destroy them one by one in order to destroy the Yin mountain peak where Bai Gu is hiding. Yuan Lianyao muttered in a low voice, her expression gradually becoming strange. Yu Yuan, you may have unwittingly become an accomplice. Yu Yuan nodded slightly with a grim expression. I can't believe that I unwittingly became the knife that stabbed Bai Gu. As soon as he had entered Bai Gu's territory, he had used the evil demon cauldron to bombard the specters outside the Yin mountain peak where Yin sunflower essence existed. At the same time, He had refined Ean's sunflower essence into his body with the evil demon body tempering incantation and the grand ghost soul incantation, causing the mountains to collapse one after another. If it could be said that each of these mountains was connected to Baigu's mind, and they were all his eyes, then, wouldn't Baigu be watching as he destroyed his foundation step by step? Baigu was first heavily injured by his half-disciple, Luoyu. Then, he was once again injured by several titled specters of the same level on his own mountain. Given Baigu's pride, how helpless and aggrieved must he be to hide in the Een mountain. And now, in order to obtain the Een sunflower essence, he had become an accomplice. Just like those specters, he had destroyed the Een mountain to force Baigu. If Baigu knew all of this, how would he feel? At this thought, Yu Yuan's mood became extremely irritated. He wanted nothing more than to drive the evil demon cauldron to the Een mountain, where Baigu was cultivating, as quickly as possible. He would kill all the titled specters and then explain to Baigu that his actions were unintentional. Young master, in your current state, going there is simply suicide. And Ziqing bluntly revealed the truth. You are still in the subtle realm, and the evil demon cauldron you control is far from being able to recover to the level of a divine artifact. The most frightening thing about you is your sword art, but... She shook her head. But it's because your cultivation isn't high enough. You will only be able to use it a few times before you run out of energy. Whoosh! Under the dim sky, a towering palace that looked like the residence of a god howled through the air. Endless divine light shone from the palace, causing all the specters and specters to retreat in shock. Een gods came and went from the palace, laughing and chatting with each other. Chao Jiazi. When Ziqing spoke of this name, she was filled with deep veneration, and her expression was solemn. Young master, I know you've seen him before, but you definitely don't know how terrifying he is. Chao Jiazi is known as the strongest person below the Yang God realm. Even Zhou Songmin, who appeared out of nowhere, couldn't change this fact when he was at the late stage of the Soul Wander realm. This person will change the situation of the Land of Terror. With his help, even I have no confidence in defeating the Cold Abyss Ghost King. She had come to the Land of Terror with the Frost Thunder Seal to help the Chuling Ghoul King. She had thought that the Chuling Ghoul King was slightly stronger than the Cold Abyss Ghost King. However, after Chao Jiazi showed up and expressed his support for the Cold Abyss Ghost King, the Cold Abyss Ghost King, who was supposed to be the weakest among the 5 Ghoul Kings, instantly became the most popular one. In a very short time, many specters and specters that had been hiding in seclusion went to the Cold Abyss Ghost King's side. These specters and specters were at the same level as Black Sickle. They hadn't been famous before because they didn't want to compete for the Ghoul King's ranking. Now they had shown up because they thought the Cold Abyss Ghost King was very likely to become the master of the Land of Terror. The master of the Land of Terror! If the Cold Abyss Ghost King became the only master of the Land of Terror, then they would have a chance to become the next Ghoul King in the current situation where the Een Chi was extremely rich. This was why they had shown up and joined the Cold Abyss Ghost King's side. The person who had caused the Cold Abyss Ghost King's sudden rise in power was Chao Jiazi of Xuantianzong. Chao Jiazi. Thousands of meters away, the life altar in Yu Yuan's flesh aura mini-world inside the Fiend Demon Cauldron suddenly sensed something and became turbulent. It's him. When he had entered the White Bone Ghoul's territory, he had sensed that something was causing the life altar to tremble. Some kind of existence with a vast flesh aura had alarmed the life altar in the White Bone Ghoul's territory and made Yu Yuan secretly wary. At this moment, he suddenly realized what was going on. At the same time, Yui's soul message sounded in his mind. Master, this Chao Jiazi refined the Een sunflower essence from the other mountains into his body just like you did. He also came here in his fleshly body and refined even more Een sunflower essence. Right now, he seems to be hiding in that palace, but he's probably not afraid of the cold wind in the outside world anymore. He should be able to come out and walk this world with his fleshly body. Yue sighed quietly. He should be scarier than Mo Yen, Yuan Lianyao sighed. Mo Yen. And Ziqing curled her lips disdainfully and said in a mocking tone, Mo Yen is relying on his father. Without his father's secret arrangements, would Mo Yen be where he is today? Even with such a father, Mo Yan's achievements are limited. He's not the strongest devil seed in the devil's palace. She took a deep breath and said, Chao Jiazi, on the other hand, didn't rely on anyone. He fought his way to where he is today. Right now, Chao Jiazi is regarded as the next master of Xuantianzong. How can Mo Yen compare to him? Yu Yuan took a deep breath and said, He's a truly powerful enemy. Young master, don't think of him as an enemy. And Ziqing had a bitter expression. At least for now, don't think of him as an enemy. The gap between your cultivation is too big. Young master, don't be discouraged. You're much younger than him, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. Yu Yuan nodded. I've decided to go to White Bone Ghoul's place. Ah. And Ziqing and Yuan Lianyao's expressions changed at the same time. Chapter 773. The tall Chao Jiazi was leaning against the railing of the magnificent floating palace. His bright eyes seemed to contain endless mysteries, as if they contained a galaxy of stars. Chao Jiazi wore an ordinary azure robe and a dragon-shaped universe ring. His appearance was not outstanding, but his eyes were eye-catching. Yu Yuan. The palace that the Heavenly Palace seal had transformed into was still whistling through the air. He stood by the white jade-like railing and whispered, I didn't expect that the little she-devil of the Blood God sect would save me at this critical moment. I was also surprised. Chu Yao frowned. The medicine god's disciple, who had just bid farewell to Ziqing, had used a secret technique to find the floating palace after leaving the Yin Mountain. Chao Jiazi had then invited him over. As Zhong Chichen's son-in-law and a god-tier alchemist, all the Yin spirits of the experts bowed solemnly when he arrived. The medicine god sect maintained a harmonious relationship with many sects and forces in the Tianyuan continent. Zhong Chichen's name was extremely well known in the Tianyuan continent. Even the few peak primordial spirit experts would praise him whenever he was mentioned. Chu Yao was considered to be the future sect master of the medicine god sect. Everyone wanted to curry favor with him. Even Chao Jiazi, when treating him, didn't show any disrespect in his words and actions. Chao Jiazi knew that if he could win Chu Yao's favor, it would be greatly beneficial to him now and in the future. Chao Jiazi turned around and smiled. Senior Chu, what about the Black-Side Ghost? I'll make it clear that the Medicine God sect and the Black-Side Ghost have no deep relationship. Chu Yao explained seriously under everyone's gazes. The Medicine God sect only sold some pills to the Black-Side Ghost. The Black-Side Ghost was not raised or supported by the Medicine God sect. Of course I know that. The Medicine God sect looks down on the Black-Side Ghost. Chao Jiazi nodded. The first ghost that the Medicine God sect looked up to should be the white-robed one, right? Of the 5 ghost kings, Chuling was related to the blood god, Blackstaff was related to the Devil's Palace, and Thousand Tribulations was originally a demonic soul. The Frigid Depths had some connections with the Frigid Yin sect, and Tian Tsang, the most mysterious of them all, didn't give any face to any of them. If the Medicine God sect wanted to nurture a force in the land of despair, they could only choose from the Yugui. Their first target was White Robe. Unfortunately, White Robe was not interested in the Medicine God sect. He only wanted to leave the land of terror and travel to the outside world. Black Sickle did not have a good reputation in the Fearless Land. Even if the Medicine God sect had some dealings with him, they would distance themselves from the outside world. Therefore, in the face of Chao Jiazi's inquiry, Chu Yao neither denied nor admitted it. He only maintained his silence. Chao Jiazi suddenly said, "I'll take half of the Yin sunflower essence hidden in the Yin mountain." Chu Yao thought for a moment and slowly nodded. "I only need 30%. Deal." Chao Jiazi smiled. "What about Yu Yuan?" In the palace, a cultivator from the Spirit Void sect asked tentatively. Chu Yao's expression did not change. "He's a junior in the subtle realm. After seeing this palace, he probably won't dare to go near the Yin mountain where Bai Gu cultivates. I admire him." Chao Jiazi's expression became very serious. "He's very much like me when I was young. He's even more outstanding than I was in my early years. It's not easy for him to stir up such a big storm without relying on anyone and still be alive. As long as he doesn't come and save Bai Gu, I still hope that he'll live well." As soon as these words came out, the experts from the Tianyuan continent had thoughtful expressions. Emir Yu Yuan had won Chao Jiazi's favor and was regarded so highly by him? In a Yin mountain that was not nurtured by Yin sunflower essence. Yu Yuan stepped out of the fiendish demon cauldron and meditated in the airtight cave. His earthly soul cultivated the great Yin soul art, while his heavenly soul underwent the extreme intelligent soul-tempering arts cleansing. The translucent spirit jades in his palm turned into jade powder after absorbing the spiritual qi in them. Inside his organs, there was a pill that flashed with blood qi that spread through his veins and nourished his dried-up body, slowly guiding it to the profound gate in his middle dantian. After unconsciously swinging his sword, the energy in his body was almost used up, so he had to find a place to cultivate. No matter how much he wanted to save Bai Gu, he had to ensure that he had the strength to fight. Outside the Yin mountain, and Ziqing told Yuan Lianyao to persuade him to give up on going to the Yin mountain where Bai Gu cultivated and not go against Chao Jiazi. Yuan Lianyao smiled bitterly and shook her head, saying that she understood Yu Yuan's temper. And Ziqing was helpless as well, and she left the words "let him do as he wishes" before leaving swiftly and vanishing without a trace. Several days later, a ghost in the shape of a raccoon slowly floated out from the ground under Yuan Lianyao's feet. The ghost looked around cautiously, afraid that it would be noticed. "It's you." Yuan Lianyao's expression flickered the moment she saw it. She instantly recognized that this raccoon ghost was one of Bai Gu's most capable subordinate. "Why are you here? How's Bai Gu doing?" "Lord Bai is trapped. His subordinates have either died or fled. They've all scattered." The raccoon-shaped ghost sighed and looked around timidly. "Most of our companions have left the Lord's territory. Only a few are still hiding in the dark." This ghost's green eyes were filled with wisdom. It was deeply trusted by Bai Gu and had always been loyal to Bai Gu. "Why did you come out?" Yuan Lianyao asked. "I heard Yu Yuan, Lord Bai, say that he wants to go to the Yin mountain where Lord Bai is cultivating." With these words, the raccoon ghost cast a grateful look at the Yin mountain where Yu Yuan was cultivating. "I feel that I have to do something for Lord Bai, but I'm too weak. I need to borrow his power." "You?" Yuan Lianyao was surprised. When she and Ziqing and Yu Yuan were talking, she didn't sense anything unusual. And Ziqing had cultivated to the Soul Wander realm and was covered in precious treasures. Yu Yuan also had the baleful demon cauldron, but they didn't sense this ghost's presence. This meant that this raccoon ghost must be extraordinary. However, the way she saw it, the level of this ghost was at most at the ghost spirit level. No matter how intelligent it was, could it really be of help with such a low cultivation and battle prowess? Someone like the Black Scythe Ghost had several heavenly ghosts under his command and dozens of ghost spirits at most. Just one Black Scythe alone was enough to crush this person before him like an ant. Not to mention that there was Chu Yao of the Medicine God sect, Chao Jiazi of Xuantianzong, and even more titled Dark Ghosts. Looking at the current situation, saving the White Bone Ghost and helping White Bone escape was undoubtedly a fool's dream, a fantasy. "I need Lord Bai's power. I hope you can go in and tell Big Brother you about my request, the raccoon monkey said with a serious expression. Yuan Lianyao pondered for a moment and said, wait for him to recover. 100 meters underground in the White Bone Ghost's territory. Under the raccoon ghost's lead, Yu Yuan opened up a crack at the bottom of an inconspicuous mountain. Driving the baleful demon cauldron, he looked at a long and narrow crack and asked curiously, what is it? Lord Baigu only told me to find you outside and bring you here if he's trapped. The raccoon ghost pointed at the bright silver crack. He wants you to break that stone and open up the crack as much as possible. Yu Yuan looked at the bright silver stone with a puzzled expression and sensed the dense energy inside. There's no sunflower essence here. Lord Yu Yuan, this lowly one is only following orders. I know nothing, the raccoon ghost said with a bitter expression. Yu Yuan, what's inside? Yuan Lianyao looked carefully and found that the crack was sparse and ordinary. When her soul consciousness touched it, she found that it was only slightly cold. There was nothing special about it. Is this the backup plan Baigu left behind? What can we change by breaking this stone and opening up the crack? She didn't think that this would be able to turn Baigu's situation around. Baigu is mysterious. Perhaps it really has a way to help him escape. Yu Yuan rubbed his chin and didn't rush to act. Instead, he communicated with the cauldron soul, Yui. Can you sense the crack and see if there's anything wrong? Okay, Yui replied. A moment later, Yui answered, Master, there's a densing energy in the depths of the crack. I can't sense it. I had a feeling that by shattering the stone, we would be able to break through the energy. Perhaps we would be able to see some of the things that had been sealed underground. This depth is still very far from the source of the energy. Strange, what could there be? She was also curious. Yu Yuan looked at the raccoon ghost and asked, Baigu didn't say anything in detail? No, I don't know anything. Forget it. Since the situation is so bad, I'll give it a try. The raccoon ghost's green eyes suddenly lit up. Please do it. Chapter 774. Boom. Under Yu Yuan's instructions, the huge black cauldron, which was as heavy as a mountain, slammed into the crevice in the stone. Silver light sputtered out of the crevice. Suddenly, silver sparks flew out of the crevice and filled this small space. Essence of sunflower! Yu Yuan exclaimed from within the cauldron, his eyes shining with the light of excitement. Yuan Lianyao's beautiful eyes lit up as she exclaimed, I'm afraid this place is indeed full of wonders. The raccoon-shaped ghost that was loyal to the Bone Ghoul also grew excited. There must be a reason why Lord Bone asked me to summon you here. Again. Instead of rushing to refine and absorb the sunflower essence with the evil demon body tempering incantation, Yu Yuan summoned the cauldron soul, Yui. Boom. 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 The evil demon cauldron repeatedly slammed into the silver crevice, sputtering out even more sunflower essence. Specks of sunflower essence fused with the dense qi in this small underground space to form a hazy silver halo that enveloped the fiendish demon cauldron and the raccoon-shaped ghost. It was like a defensive shield that had been prepared in advance. It seems that Bone Ghoul did have a backup plan. As the silver halo condensed, Yu Yuan became more and more excited as he continued to instruct the cauldron soul. Yui, on the other hand, spared no effort to slam the evil demon cauldron into the crevice again and again, causing more sunflower essence to fly out. The splashing sunflower essence naturally fused into the silver halo. Boom. Rumble. Yu Yuan, who was deep underground, had no idea that heaven-shaking, earth-shattering changes were taking place in Bone Ghoul's territory because of his collisions. One after another, ordinary mountains that weren't nurtured by sunflower essence started to crack. Then, they collapsed with loud rumbles. In White Bone's territory, there were dozens of mountains of different sizes. Not all of them had been refined by white bone and produced sunflower essence. Since the mountains that were sparsely populated with specters weren't the targets of the specters from the outside world, and the specters residing in them weren't by Gu's subordinates, they were able to escape the calamity. But now, such a mountain actually shattered and collapsed without any warning. Due to the existence of the mountains, Gu's territory was originally unequal in height. However, as the mountains shattered, it became a flat land. In the Land of Terror, the plain of White Bone's territory looked very strange. The abnormal movements in the White Bone territory and the collapse of mountains quickly attracted the attention of the most powerful ghost. Beneath the ground, a slender figure suddenly appeared out of thin air outside the silver halo formed by sunflower essence and dense qi. Senior Jiang. Yuan Lianyao suddenly sensed the figure. Her soul was outside the fiendish demon cauldron, and her face was full of surprise. Why are you here? Before Jiang Xingwen could finish her sentence, 5 enormous blurry and illusory soul shadows suddenly appeared behind her. Yu Yuan, who was still instructing Yui to continue the bombardment, felt his heart skip a beat, and he abruptly turned around. Jiang Xingwen didn't mention it, but when he looked at the 5 enormous soul shadows, he recognized that one of them was half a disciple of his from his previous life. It was the current Ghost King Luoho. Ghost King Luoho's soul shadow was illusory and didn't reveal his true appearance. It seemed to be just a projection. She stared deeply at Yu Yuan through the silver halo and opened her mouth, as if she were trying to persuade him. Unfortunately for her, Yu Yuan couldn't hear her at all. The silver ring of light formed from sunflower essence and refined energy kept the new Luoho Ghoul King's aura, voice and soul thought at bay. Yu Yuan sensed that the other 4 soul shadows were at the same level as Ghost King Luoho. Its Chuling, Black Staff, Thousand Calamity, and Frigid Abyss. Jiang Xingwen's figure was the clearest. With the soul crossing river wrapped around her waist, she was able to communicate with Yu Yuan through the glowing silver halo. All of the Ghoul Kings in the Land of Terror, except for Tiansong, have sensed the commotion here, and sent a wisp of their soul images here. Yu Yuan's expression was grave. What's the matter? Yu Yuan, I don't know the details, but I, on behalf of all of the Ghoul Kings present, would like to ask you a favor, Jiang Xingwen said with a serious expression. What is it? Yu Yuan was surprised. Please stop attacking that crack in the stone with the fiendish demon cauldron. Jiang Xingwen bowed slightly. You may not know this, but your current actions have caused the collapse of many mountains in the White Bone Ghoul's territory. You're about to shatter the heaven and earth controlled by the White Bone Ghoul Kings. The other 5 Ghoul Kings, including Garosha, seemed to be pleading with him. Yuan Lianyao exclaimed in shock. How can this be? Senior Jiang, are you serious? How can Yu Yuan's attack cause the mountains outside to collapse? I don't know the exact reason yet. Jiang Xingwen's face was filled with bitterness as she repeatedly bowed to Yu Yuan. Please don't continue. I'm begging you. White Bone. Yu Yuan said in a grim voice. White Bone. Jiang Xingwen went blank for a moment. What does your actions have to do with White Bone? I'm helping White Bone do this. Yu Yuan took a deep breath. Numerous titled ghouls are swarming into White Bone's territory from different directions. Isn't it against the rules to try and get rid of it while it's seriously injured? I know that some of the Ghost Kings behind you are secretly urging this to happen. Upon hearing these words, Jiang Xingwen turned around to look at a soul shadow that looked like a cold iron plate. It was the Cold Abyss Ghost King. She and the Cold Abyss Ghost King seemed to be arguing fiercely outside the Silver Sphere. The Chuling Ghost King, the Thousand Tribulations Ghost King, and the Black Cane also joined in the argument. Only the new Luo Ho Ghost King remained silent. After a while, Jiang Xingwen explained, Yu Yuan is Chao Jiazi from the Zuantianzong Ghost King, and Chu Yao from the Medicine God sect. Lord Yu Yuan. At this moment, the raccoon monkey ghost hid behind Yu Yuan and Yuan Lianyao and whispered under the baleful demon cauldron, "Your Lord White Bone's only hope. I don't know what's going to happen next. However, if you don't help Lord White Bone, he'll die." Yu Yuan's eyes flickered as he looked back at the stone fissure where Yin's sunflower essence was sputtering. Outside, Jiang Xingwen was the only one who could communicate with him through the soul-crossing river. She was still trying to persuade Yu Yuan to stop. She even represented the other ghoul kings and made Yu Yuan an offer. First, she said that as long as Yu Yuan was willing to stop, Yu Yuan would be able to do whatever he wanted in the land of despair. The other ghoul kings could also send out orders to forbid any ghoul from attacking Yu Yuan. After a while, she said that after White Bone died, 20% of the Yin sunflower essence in the Yin mountain where White Bone cultivated could be reserved for Yu Yuan's cultivation. After a while, she even said that she was willing to persuade Chao Jiazi and Chu Yao to let White Bone live. After Jiang Xingwen's voice, all kinds of conditions were listed, and they became more and more outrageous. Yu Yuan was confused. He could only sense that Jiang Xingwen and the other ghoul kings were afraid of something. "Since you're so afraid, I'd like to see what happens after I poke a hole in the sky." After a while, Yu Yuan, who was almost driven mad by curiosity, suddenly made a decision. He ignored Jiang Xingwen, Luo Ho, and the other ghouls' temptations and threats. "Smash. Keep smashing. When have I, Yu Yuan, ever stopped making trouble? Ah!" He suddenly burst into hysterical laughter. The forbidden land of the fallen moons, the sea of starry ash, the great lake of the desolate god. What's there to worry about? What's there to be afraid of? The huge black cauldron did as he said, and once again smashed into the stone fissure. Boom! 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 After 9 times, the huge cauldron seemed to have opened a gap, and with a whoosh it appeared in another heaven and earth. In a vast, silver-gray heaven and earth, there was a dried-up river. A tall, handsome man lay in the middle of the river. His arms and legs were under his arms, and his neck was connected to 18 long, thin gullies. Yin's sunflower essence could be vaguely seen flowing in the gullies. His eyes were closed, and there was no aura of a soul around him. His body was filled with Yin's sunflower essence. Even though he didn't have a soul, he was still breathing evenly, and his heart seemed to be beating softly. A soulless corpse? Chapter 775. Outside of the hazy silver sphere. Countless wisps of soul awareness quietly gathered within the enormous, blurry soul shadows of the 5 ghost kings. The 5 ghost kings' shadows gradually became clearer. Jiang Xingwen's expression was solemn as she watched Yu Yuan stubbornly refusing to listen to her advice. The baleful demon cauldron entered first, followed by Yuan Lianyao's nether soul, and then the raccoon-shaped ghost. Whoosh! The towering soul shadow of the cold abyss ghost king, who was sitting on a huge tombstone, gradually appeared. The cold abyss ghost king, who was wreathed in a frosty aura, stared coldly at the hazy silver circle and said in a bone-chilling voice, "I can smell the terrifying aura of that sleeping being." Jiang Xingwen's expression flickered slightly as she asked, "Who is the sleeping one?" The newly ascended Luo Ho Ghost King appeared with her soul remembrance. She held a flower basket in her hand, and her expression was calm. She frowned and said, "Please enlighten me." The ghoul kings in the land of terror had many divine abilities in this heaven and earth. By releasing a soul projection and slowly gathering soul awareness, they could separate a wisp of their soul that was slightly weaker than their true form and place it in many special places. Every dark ghost would be able to learn such profound magics after becoming a ghoul king. At this moment, Chuling, Thousand Tribulations, Cold Abyss, Black Scepter, and Luo Ho had each separated a wisp of their soul from their true form through these magic. Luo Ho had only been a ghoul king for about 100 years, so she didn't know much about what had happened in the land of terror. However, she had sensed an aura that made her uneasy when Yu Yuan had driven the baleful demon cauldron into the stone rift. Then, she had sensed that chuling, black scepter, thousand tribulations had left one after another. Her curiosity had been aroused, and she had also come to investigate with her Ghoul King abilities. With a complicated expression, the cold Abyss Ghost King said, "A long, long time ago, a powerful Ghoul King appeared in the Land of Terror at almost the same time as the Nether Capital Ghoul King." Jiang Xingwen's expression flickered. The Nether Capital Ghoul King. As the new owner of the Soul Crossing River, she obviously knew that this world-shaking soul weapon was closely related to the source of the Yin vein. It had once been brought out of the Land of Terror by the Mingdu Ghost King and charged into the outer domain. The Mingdu Ghostly King was the overlord of the Land of Terror in the previous era. The Dark North Capital was even more ferocious than the current 6 Ghostly Kings. That person became a Ghostly King after the Dark North Capital. He should have been the strongest opponent in the Dark North Capital. The frigid Abyss Ghost King fixed his cold gaze on the spatial rift. However, he chose to reincarnate as a human soon after he became a Ghost King and resumed his cultivation. "What?" Ghoul King Luoho cried out in shock. "You all know that once you become a Ghost King, you have a chance to reincarnate." With these words, the cold Abyss Ghost King let out a soft sigh. Reincarnation means starting all over again. Even though you've been reborn with fleshly bodies, not all Ghost Kings dare to take this path. As a reincarnated human, there are too many unknown factors and uncertainties. Once you become a human, if your cultivation talent isn't good enough, you may never be able to step onto the path of cultivation. Even if you can cultivate, how many people can walk to the end of this dangerous and bumpy path and reach the end? If you don't enter the nascent divinity realm and remain in the freedom realm, how much better can you be compared to us? The cold Abyss Ghost King sighed. Chuling, Black Cane, Thousand Tribulations, and the newly ascended Ghoul King Luoho all remained silent as they pondered the meaning of his words. Jiang Xingwen nodded slightly. That's right. That person didn't choose to reincarnate as soon as he became a Ghost King because he feared the Dark North Capital. The cold Abyss Ghost King's tone was filled with reverence as he said this. I only heard it from one of his subordinates. He knew that being a Ghost King was the limit in the Land of Terror. Whether it was the Dark North Capital or him, there was no way for him to break through to the ghostly divinity realm in that era. Therefore, he resolutely chose to be reborn as a human and attempt to break through to the nascent divinity realm as a human. After he reincarnated, his soul left, and that body of his all those years ago was tempered by the essence of the Yin sunflower. After his soul vanished, no one knows where it was sealed. That soulless body of his is filled with endless wonders. Many specters have searched it, but no one knows where it went. The cold Abyss Ghost King stopped and looked towards the crack in the stone. Jiang Xingwen instantly understood. His soulless body is in there? The frigid Abyss Ghost King nodded slightly. What I'm wondering is, since we've found the bone, and we know that its body is sealed inside, why didn't we open it and fuse its soul into it to refine it? What are you afraid of? Jiang Xingwen asked. White bone seems to have come here to destroy the Land of Terror. If we fuse it with that body, the white flames it carries will start to burn. We're afraid that we won't be able to stop the fire. The cold Abyss Ghost King was clearly panicked as he spoke. The flames spreading from White Bone's body could burn the Land of Terror to ashes. In the silver-gray heaven and earth, the Yin Qi was as vast as the sea, so abundant that it made one's hair stand on end. Not a wisp of frigid wind from the outside world could be found here. As soon as Yu Yuan stepped out of the baleful demon cauldron and appeared in this heaven and earth, pure and rich Yin Qi flowed through his spiritual acupoints and into his sea of awareness. All of a sudden, he felt incomparably comfortable, as if he were bathing in the most soul-nourishing hot spring between heaven and earth. His earthly soul, in particular, seemed to be changing as it drank its fill of the rich yin qi. Yuan Lianyao, who was right behind him, saw Yu Yuan walk out of the baleful demon cauldron, and her expression flickered. Just as she was about to tell him to be careful, she noticed the tall, feminine man and asked, "Who is this?" The tall man was lying quietly on a dry riverbed, breathing evenly, but without any soul aura. As he breathed, the yin qi in this heaven and earth surged violently. His every move, even the slightest breath, seemed to be able to control this unique space. Fizz! Fizz! Yuan Lianyao's yin divinity was suddenly infiltrated by the dense and pure yin qi. Her graceful and enchanting soul shadow suddenly trembled as she exclaimed, This place is helping me refine my yin divinity. The extremely pure yin qi in this heaven and earth seemed to be able to nourish all souls. Swoosh! The raccoon-shaped ghost also took the opportunity to enter. As soon as it popped its head out, it exclaimed, "A ghost king!" After the exclamation, this subordinate of Bai Gu's suddenly became excited. My soul seems to. Vast amounts of yin energy quietly enveloped it like a silver-gray film of light. Yu Yuan turned his head to look, and his eyes suddenly lit up. You seem to be evolving into a heavenly ghost. The raccoon-shaped ghost was originally a ghost spirit, but the moment it stepped into this heaven and earth, it stepped onto the path of evolution and power, transforming into a heavenly ghost. Yuan Lianyao also saw the changes. After recovering from her shock, she said, "He's a ghost king?" "A ghost king. He's definitely a ghost king." The raccoon-shaped ghost pointed at the river that had long dried up. "This is a nether river of the netherworld. Only a ghost king is worthy of such a nether river of the netherworld. After becoming a ghost king, one can communicate with the source of the yin vein and receive a gift from the source of the yin vein. It will form a nether river of the netherworld that leads to the territory under your jurisdiction." Yu Yuan looked at it again and nodded. "Although it's dried up, it does seem to be a nether river of the netherworld. It dried up because this ghost king is dead." The raccoon-shaped ghost shouted again. No, it's not dead. His soul is gone, his body still hasn't decayed. Hey, there's also a stream that connects 18 places, and there's also yin sunflower essence. The ghost's soul body suddenly trembled. Lord Baigu's territory has a total of 18 mountains that give birth to yin sunflower essence. Could it be because of this soulless ghost king's corpse? Heavens, his body is full of yin sunflower essence. It's him who extracted the yin sunflower essence from the yin mountains and absorbed it into his body. Or, could it be that the yin sunflower essence in the yin mountains came from his body? This ghost under Baigu's command was so intimidated in this small world that it started to speak incoherently. However, Yu Yuan and Yuan Lianyao had already obtained a lot of useful information from its messy words. "Master," Yui's soul voice sounded in his mind. "That ghost is using this opportunity to become a heavenly ghost. Your woman is condensing her yin spirit and starting the transition to the soul wander realm. Master, you've already reached the late stage of the nuance realm. The rich and refined yin qi in this small world and the yin sunflower essence are the best things for you to transform your yin spirit." "What?" Yu Yuan didn't know how to react. "You can condense your earthly soul into a yin spirit here." Yui reminded him word by word. The breakthrough from the nuance realm to the yin spirit realm can begin immediately. Yu Yuan felt as if she had been struck by lightning. Now is the best time. Chapter 776. The silvery white yin mountain was as pure and holy as snow, and it shone with dazzling light. Under the command of numerous titled ghouls, tens of thousands of souls and specters surrounded the mountain in layers. It could be said that not even a drop of water could pass through. The howls of the specters shook heaven and earth, and echoed in all directions. As long as one's cultivation base reached the underworld ghost level, no matter where they were in the land of terror, they would be able to sense the terrifying and mighty movements in this area. Many specters that didn't have any grudges with White Bones were also alarmed by the commotion, and swarmed over. In an instant, the Een Mountain in White Bones' territory became the focus of everyone's attention. White Bones! White Bones! White Bones! Tens of thousands of specters howled as they desperately charged towards the silver-white mountain peak. Whoosh! The moment the small and weak ghosts touched the mountain, they were reduced to ashes. This Een Mountain, where White Bones had cultivated for many years, had turned into a millstone that could grind specters to pieces. It was slaughtering the specters that didn't know whether they were dead or alive. A misty silver light screen quietly appeared. Inside the stone walls, Een's sunflower essence, which was as vast as a river of stars, could be vaguely seen flying around in a specific pattern, constantly increasing the power of the light screen. The Een sunflower essence has endowed this mountain with endless power. However, the Een sunflower essence is decreasing. White Bones will not be allowed to become king in this land of terror. Kill! Kill! The titled ghoul's cold voice was like a talisman that urged tens of thousands of specters to charge towards the silvery white mountain, where they were quickly killed. Hundreds of kilometers away, even more specters and specters were being recruited. These specters were regarded as cannon fodder by the titled ghouls, and their deaths were used to wear down the silvery white mountain, where White Bones was hiding. Time slowly passed by as many souls and ghosts died. Meanwhile, the vast amount of Een's sunflower essence inside the silvery white mountain, where White Bones cultivated, was also decreasing bit by bit. He won't be able to hold on for long. In the distant sky, Chu Yao of the medicine god sect gazed at the silvery white Een Mountain and said to Chao Jiazi, "Once the formation is broken, White Bones will die." Chao Jiazi's expression was as calm as an ancient well, and his tone was equally indifferent. Death is his destiny. Ow ow ow! Howl! The nearby titled phantoms shouted loudly and madly unleashed their evil soul remembrance. The surging wave of ghosts shrieked hysterically as they rushed to their deaths. The titled phantoms here had either received hints from Chao Jiazi, Chu Yao, or the Ghoul King to receive a terrifying piece of information. If White Bones became the Ghost King, the land of despair would be plunged into a dark age that had never been seen in thousands of years. Once the news spread, thousands of ghosts were in an uproar. He wanted to stop White Bone from becoming king and grind it to death in his own Een Mountain. In the dark cave, the short White Bone ghost was sitting with its back pressed against a rock wall. Its jade white bones were broken in several places, and they were currently covered in white light. White Bone's jade-green eyes spun as it looked at the ground beneath its feet from time to time. A thin, glittering silver thread extended from his spine into the depths of the Een Mountain. Like a soul tentacle, it probed the area 100 meters below the ground. Crack! It moved one of its joints and adjusted the bone that had been bent out of shape. With such a small action, the light in Bai Gu's jade-green eyes dimmed a little because of it. It knew that it was severely injured. If a miracle didn't happen, it wouldn't be able to recover in a short period of time with just the Een energy of this Een Mountain. Outside, the numerous ghosts and souls attacked without fear of death, as if they were trying to fill the sea and wear down the formation. Will Yu Yuan come to my territory under such circumstances? White Bone thought to itself. At this moment, Yu Yuan was its last and only hope. It knew that if Yu Yuan was willing to help it, it still had a slim chance of turning the situation around. A weak, almost invisible flame of hope, White Bone murmured, its eyes dim. After an unknown amount of time, the thin thread that led to the depths of the earth suddenly trembled slightly. White Bone, who had been sitting there for a long time, smelled the trembling, and the jade-green light in the depths of its dim eyes shone brightly. It was like two green suns rising from the ground, shining brightly in the dark room. Yu Yuan. White bones suddenly stood up, and the joints in its entire body emitted cracking sounds. Its white and lustrous body of bones was trembling. It knew that Yu Yuan had started to move. The scales of victory were slightly tilted in its favor. Amidst the silver-gray heaven and earth, Yu Yuan glanced at Yuan Lianyao from time to time with a contemplative look on her face. Trying to break through to the Yin Soul stage. His eyes flashed. The condensation of the Yin spirit was much simpler than the forging of the Yang spirit. The forging of the Yang spirit required the preparation of all kinds of spiritual materials in advance. Because the Yang spirit had a physical body, the time and energy spent in the condensation process far exceeded that of the Yin spirit. The formation of the Yang spirit was incomparably difficult, and the failure rate was extremely high. Any cultivator would be very cautious when condensing the Yang spirit. They would not dare to make the slightest mistake. However, to make the earth spirit transform into a Yin spirit, it often only required a pill that could increase soul power and a unique environment. When the Yin spirit was first formed, it would be quite weak. Before it stabilized, even the slightest movement could affect the Yin spirit. Therefore, generally speaking, those who wanted to condense the Yin spirit needed the protection of a formation. It would be best if there was a powerful senior secretly guarding the side to ensure that the attacker would not be harmed by the natural environment during the process of transforming the Yin spirit. Yu Yuan secretly communicated with Yu Yi in the small silver-gray world, while looking at Yuan Lianyao and the raccoon-shaped ghost. Yuan Lianyao was using the rich Yin Qi here to cleanse her Yin spirit. The raccoon-shaped ghost was directly on the road to becoming a heavenly ghost. Yu Yi's urging rumbled in the depths of his mind. He calmed his mind and sensed that as the Yin Qi poured into his body, his earth spirit was using the method of the great Yin spirit art. The Yin Qi was refining his soul. The Yin Qi in this small world was much thicker and purer than that in the Yin mountain where Yu Yuan had cultivated. Wisps of Yin Qi flowed into the small world in his mind and were absorbed by the earth spirit. He could clearly feel that the wisps of Yin Qi were being tempered. The late stage of the subtle realm was already qualified to break through to the Yin spirit realm. The environment here was naturally suitable for the condensation of the Yin spirit. As long as no one set foot outside, he would not have any worries. A ghost king who has left his soul won't wake up right away, right? He thought. White Bone, I hope you didn't come here with bad intentions. Yu Yi did not care about anything else and tempted him again. I have a feeling that this strange world is the most suitable for you to condense your Yin spirit. All right then. Yu Yuan was not a wishy-washy person. He stopped thinking about it, calmed his mind, and sat down. He held his breath and focused his mind, doing his best to withdraw the Yin Qi in this small world. Whoosh! When he took the initiative, the speed at which the Yin Qi poured into his Naiwan acupoint increased by more than 10 times. All of a sudden, the Yin Qi in his small world was so dense that it could not be dispersed, enveloping his 3 souls. When the great Yin spirit art was activated, most of the Yin Qi poured into his earth spirit like a vast sea. His earth spirit in the small world in his sea of consciousness expanded rapidly, as if it was filled with air. Chapter 777. In the dark, icy starry river. A dark red star slowly flew across the starry river. The surface of the star was covered in corpses. There were pieces of glass left after the Yang soul had exploded, the bones of greater demons that were as large as mountains, and the corpses that had been refined by the heavenly demons to form a black iron wall. A giant platinum head was pierced with countless holes, and the soul of an Azura seemed to be howling inside. Squatting on the head was an old man with a gloomy expression. One of the old man's eyes was scarlet red, while the other was silver. He exuded a violent and cruel aura. He rubbed his silver eyeball with his finger and said with a frown, "My newly refined eyes don't feel very comfortable." He looked as small as a fly on the giant head. Countless streaks of dark red light shot out from the bottom of this star, converging into his small, thin body like thousands of rivers of energy. Not far from him, the Corpse King, who had been torn apart and then recombined after escaping from Sword Prison, was refining the corpse of a greater demon. The greater demon was a giant purple python that was 3,000 meters long, but unfortunately, it had been broken into pieces. The greater demon's raging blood chi was condensed into Eerie Corpse chi and merged into the Corpse King's body. This Freedom Realm Evil Dao expert, who had been lucky enough to be imprisoned in Sword Prison, only felt respect for this infamous abomination of the Starry River. "Master, over there?" The Corpse King was startled and jerked his head to look at a deep vortex slowly forming in the dark Starry River. Within the vortex, ancient starships shone with a cold metallic luster. A starship that was 10,000 meters long flew out of the depths of the vortex like a ghost, with numerous outsider experts vaguely visible on it. The ancient starships adjusted their course slightly and headed for the vast expanse heaven and earth. There were at least 7 outsiders on the same level as the Corpse King on top of those ancient starships. They released their powerful soul intents to scan the dark red star. However, in an instant, their soul intents quickly retreated like birds startled by the twang of a bow. In that instant, even the Corpse King's heart trembled, feeling his scalp go numb. The Chaos Kraken, whose pseudonym was Ming Kuan, was sitting on the head of the enormous platinum-level Azura of the Dark Domain in its human form. With a cold expression, it curled its lips and chuckled strangely. "Howren is getting more and more lively. Master, the Corpse King exclaimed. "At this moment, no one dares to provoke me." The Chaos Kuan grinned. "The people of the 3 high sects, the Devil's Palace, the Goblin Temple, and the Blind Sky Fiends have all settled down after a few waves of deaths. Since those 7 little fellows know who I am, they will run as far away as possible. After I refine a dozen more stars, I'll return to Howren. It's been a long time since I've seen that brat Yuyuan. He's a little far away. Just looking at him requires a drop of essence blood." With a pained expression on his face, he took out a drop of blood essence from his chest and exhaled towards the top of his head. That breath of air contained the essence of the sun and the moon, which looked like a miniature galaxy of stars. Immediately after, the outer ring of the drop of giant beast essence amber burned with flames, and a supernatural ability that could transcend boundless space was suddenly born within the amber-like blood. Inside, the small silver world where Yuyuan was sitting and cultivating with Yuan Lianyao and the raccoon-shaped ghost appeared. This included the dried-up nether river of the underworld and the Ghost King's body that was lying motionless with its soul separated from its body. "Good boy, you're already condensing a soul." The Chaos Kuan immediately laughed strangely. "My drop of essence blood was not wasted. Although I've been slightly richer recently, it's still not easy to condense essence blood. That's the dried-up nether river. It's the land of terror. This brat is actually condensing a soul in the land of terror." He slapped his leg and stood up excitedly. Crack! Below him, the Azura's head that was nearly 1,000 meters tall exploded because of his excited action. The Corpse King felt a chill run down his spine when he saw this. He was secretly glad that he had surrendered. Following the primal Chaos Kuan, he broke through layers of obstacles and entered the boundless starry river. After seeing the primal Chaos Kuan devour stars in its true form, he realized how enormous a true star behemoth was. The 1,000-meter-tall Dark Domain Azura's head was already as tall as a mountain in Howren. But compared to the Chaos Kuan's true form, it was not worth mentioning at all. Wonderful! The Chaos Kuan crushed the platinum skull that could make countless people go crazy in Howren. "I have to hurry." This brat's progress is amazing. I have to hurry back before he condenses his yang soul. Otherwise, if I want to possess him, it will be troublesome with his physique and his human body." As he spoke, he glanced at the soulless body of the Ghost King lying on the ground. This little guy seems to be, while talking to himself, he casually glanced at the Corpse King. "The old ancestor of your bloodline." "What?" The Corpse King was shocked. Deep underground, outside the hazy silver halo, Jiang Xingwen and the 5 Ghost Kings, including Luo Ho, were all alarmed. The halo formed by the combination of sunflower essence and dense qi was so mysterious that only Jiang Xingwen dared to touch it. The 5 Ghost Kings' soul intents dissipated as soon as they touched it. It was like a deadly poison. A dot of white light flashed in the small space inside the circle of light. Then, more white lights appeared one after another. White Bone, the cold abyss Ghost King, who was standing on the ice tombstone, said coldly through gritted teeth. All the Ghost Kings and Jiang Xingwen stared at the dots of light. He only felt his vision blur and a bright light shone. Then, he saw a short and small bone body appear. From the mountain where he was hiding, he arrived at this small space in a single leap. He landed outside the silver, hazy circle of light, and his emerald eyes gradually shone with divine light. White Bone. When Luo Ho Ghost King saw him again, she felt that he was unfamiliar. It was as if the white bone in front of her had become a different soul. It was no longer the white bone ghost that had challenged her before. "You also want me to die?" White Bone looked strangely at Jiang Xingwen and seemed confused. "It's not me." Jiang Xingwen smiled bitterly and pointed at the soul crossing river at her waist. "It's this. It's the artifact soul inside. It wants you to die." "That's the Dark Nether Capital," White Bone said. "It's not the Dark Nether Capital Ghost King, it's the artifact soul of the Soul Crossing River," Jiang Xingwen explained. "The Soul Crossing River has never had an artifact soul. The one who communicates with you and orders you has always been the Dark Nether Capital." White Bone's voice was cold. "Dark Nether Capital, long time no see." "It has been a long time. I thought you would never return to the land of despair. P.S. I'm in a bad state. Sorry." Chapter 778. Whoosh. Within the hazy silver halo, a portion of the superpower poured into Bai Gu's small, cracked body. The cracks in his bones suddenly disappeared, as if they had been polished. White Bone's injuries were healed almost instantly as a portion of the energy from the hazy halo seeped into his body. Furthermore, the aura of White Bones and the light in its eyes were rapidly increasing. Jiang Xingwen turned pale with fright and took down the soul crossing river from her waist. Her almond-shaped eyes widened as she shouted, You are actually Mingdu?" Mingdu. The expressions of the 5 Ghost Kings' souls suddenly changed as they stared at the belt in shock. This was especially true for Chuling Ghost King. Apart from shock, there were many other complex emotions in his eyes as he looked at the belt. There was excitement, joy, and helplessness. Jiang Xingwen, all of the souls and specters that pledged their loyalty to you didn't do it entirely because of the soul crossing river. While White Bones was madly increasing its strength, its jade-green eyes were calm. "It's because of the Dark Nether Capital." Jiang Xingwen's face was bitter. From the moment Jiang Xingwen had heard the Soul Fairy's voice and acknowledged her identity, she had guessed that those powerful ghosts and spirits had flocked to her from all directions. Obviously, she wasn't that powerful. The legendary Mingdu Ghost King had the ability to rally hundreds of people with a single call. Since the birth of Dark Nether Capital, many ghosts and spirits in the Land of Terror who were stronger than him had believed in his power and chosen to follow him early on. As the Supreme Ghost King who had once ruled over the entire Land of Terror in the previous era, Mingdu did indeed possess such power. Mingdu was a natural overlord. From the moment he appeared, he had received special care from the source of the Yin vein. Lord Mingdu, the Chuling Ghost King, who was wearing a dragon robe and an imperial crown, hesitated for a moment. Then, he clasped his hand over his chest and bowed humbly to the soul-crossing river. I didn't think that my lord would still be alive. Chuling, you're not bad. When you followed me back then, you were only a ghost spirit. The hoarse voice of the Mingdu ghostly king rang out again. Guiling, the fact that I have an impression of you and know of you is enough to prove your excellence. During his time in the Land of Terror, he had hundreds of thousands of ghosts under his command. The fact that he had an impression of a single ghost spirit meant that Chuling had been extraordinary back then. Both Luo Ho Gul King and Jiang Xingwen's expressions changed at his words. The current Chuling Ghostly King was actually a subordinate of the Dark North capital in the previous era. Thousand Calamity, Black Staff, and Frigid Abyss were obviously aware of this, so they weren't too shocked. It's Chuling's honor to be remembered by you, my lord. You're right, I was just a specter back then. I only managed to break through to the heavenly ghost realm after your excellency crossed the Milky Way. Ghost King Chuling explained. She glanced at White Bones and frowned. My lord, you've ruled the Land of Terror for too long. The ghost kings of the same era as you have changed several times. Who is this old friend of yours? The peak-level soul sprite's gazes all landed on Bai Gu. His name is Yu Ling. You don't know him because he was already reincarnated as a human when you were born. Ming Du's voice sounded from the soul-crossing river. His choice was different from mine. He knew that being a ghost king was the limit in the Land of Terror back then, so he decided to be reborn as a human. I took the soul-crossing river to the Milky Way because I knew that I would never be able to become a ghost god in the Land of Terror. We chose different paths, but our goal was the same. We both wanted to become the strongest in this world, or even the Milky Way. The belt slowly flew away from Jiang Xingwen's hand and floated in the air. Mingdu still didn't reveal himself. Perhaps this belt called Soul Crossing River was already his current body. He seemed to be looking at White Bone. Yu Ling Ghostly King, all the soul sprites present murmured softly. Isn't that person inside? Cold Abyss Ghost King couldn't help but interrupt. Yu Ling, after being reincarnated as a human, his body should be sleeping there. As a ghost king who had lived for a long time, Cold Abyss had heard of Yu Ling's legend. Looking at the blurry silver circle of light in front of him, he guessed that the small space Yu Yuan had stepped into after using the Fiend Demon Cauldron was where Yu Ling was hiding. Since Yu Ling was inside, how could White Bones be him? White Bones is Yu Ling, Ming Du snorted. Even I was fooled. After Yu Ling reincarnated, he became another person who carried his memories. I don't know who Yu Ling became in Howren. I don't know what height Yu Ling reached after being reborn as a human. But he has returned, and at this checkpoint. His goal is clear. Ming Du Ghost King wasn't in a hurry to act. He just looked at the Yin sunflower essence in the blurry circle of light. The purest Yin energy poured into White Bones. Not long after, the sound of running water could be heard from the crevice behind the bones. Ghost King Luo Ho's expression changed. Nether Realms, Nether River. Jiang Xingwen exclaimed, White Bones is king. He was already a ghost king to begin with. To reach this realm again, all he needed was a portion of the Land of Terror's providence and a bit of power. Chuling Ghost King sighed softly. White Bone Ghost King, Serene Ghost King, how should I address you? In this life I am White Bones. White Bones' tone was indifferent. As he spoke, he turned to look at the crack behind him. Listening to the sound of the Nether Realms' Nether River, he seemed to enjoy it. This river, after being dry for so many years, is finally filled with Yin water again. Starting over and seeing the same scenery again, the feeling is actually different. Right, Ming Du? He looked at the belt hanging in the air. Lord Yu, Chuling Ghost King asked softly. Jiang Xingwen and the other ghostly kings were filled with questions at this moment. They all looked at the belt that kept making noises. They wanted to know what kind of state the Dark North capital was in at this moment. You've always known that the kid you're protecting can restrain me. Ming Du snorted. I didn't know you were Yuling, but you always knew I was in this belt. Yuling, you have never lost your memories. You know everything in this world. When he said this, the other ghost kings felt a chill run down their spines. White Bones did not lose his memories. When he came to the Land of Terror, he knew who he was. He also knew that the body he had hidden back then was sealed in the crack behind him. He had once been a ghost king, cultivated in human form for a lifetime, and then entered the Land of Terror as a soul. Now, he was a ghost king again. This White Bones, this Yuling, made them all feel terrified. Among them, the one who felt the strangest was Luo Ho. When the White Bones in front of her, the former Yuling ghost king, challenged her. Did he know that she was already a ghost king? Did he know what failure meant? If White Bones pursued the ghost Dao and fought fearlessly, only then could he be called a ghost king. Then when he was still a White Bones ghost, once he was defeated and killed by her, would he have died? Her real name was Luo Yu, and she was Voodoo's previous leader. Would he know? With White Bones' intelligence, methods, and power, and with all his memories, White Bones, who had turned into a human, must be a famous person in Howren. She could become Voodoo's leader. White Bones turned into a human, so his status would not be low, right? Then, who was White Bones in the outside world? Countless questions flooded Luo Ho's mind. She suddenly realized that White Bones in front of her was shrouded in endless mystery. She could not see through him. Ming Du, the current you is not my match. White Bones's eyes were cold. I sincerely suggest that you be reborn as a human like me. Walk around in human form and try to break through to the primordial spirit. As for the ghost gods that have never appeared in the Land of Terror, don't think about it. Because I'm back. Chapter 779. Because I'm back. As soon as these words left her mouth, the hazy silver halos around her morphed into streaks of dazzling silver light that instantly merged into Baigu's body. The fact that the Nether River was flowing again meant that Baigu had become a ghoul king, and could now carry more power. In the blink of an eye, there were no more obstacles in front of Jiang Xingwen and the 5 ghoul kings. Baigu's tiny body was blocking the crack in the stone behind them. Its emerald eyes were filled with arrogance and indifference, which was completely different from before. If any of you come here in your true forms, I'll take it as a challenge. His gaze swept across the soul shadows of Chuling, Black Cane, Thousand Tribulation, Frigid Depths, and Rahu. The 5 ghost kings were strangely silent. That was because the aura Baigu exuded at this moment was at the level of a true ghoul king. The fact that Baigu dared to speak to the former ruler of the Land of Terror in such an arrogant tone meant that even the current Nether capital was no match for it in its eyes. If it didn't fear the Nether capital, how could it possibly fear anything else? You're indeed the only one who can truly match me, Yuling. The Nether capital ghoul king's hoarse voice echoed out from within the soul-crossing river. We should have fought in the Land of Terror back then. I probably couldn't have defeated you back then. Baigu pondered for a moment before pointing behind him. With that body, I wouldn't have been a match for you in the Land of Terror even if I became a ghoul king. I know you too well. You were born from the source of the Een Meridians. No specter in the Land of Terror could have defeated you. With these words, he pointed at his sparkling, bony body. I carefully selected and refined this body in the forbidden land of the fallen moons. Only with this body and my advancement to a ghoul king in the Land of Terror will I be able to defeat you. And all of you. He pointed at all of the ghoul kings behind Jiang Xingwen, including Rahu. Frigid Depths let out a cold harumph. How arrogant of you, Baigu! With a derisive laugh, white flames suddenly ignited at the tip of one of its fingers. Is this what the frigid depths does? Allying with Xuantianzong, and letting Chao Jiazi do whatever he wants in my domain? As soon as the white flames filled with a holy aura took shape, all of the ghosts present felt as if their souls were about to be torn apart. Whoosh! A cluster of white flames flew into the cold abyss Ghost King's illusory tombstone, drawing a beautiful arc in the air. The icy tombstone immediately started burning. Sitting on top of the tombstone, the cold abyss Ghost King's wisp of soul awareness attempted to spread out his frost soul awareness. However, he discovered that every wisp of his soul awareness would be ignited the moment it got close to the icy tombstone. The tombstone that the frigid abyss Ghost King had manifested and condensed of frigid power rapidly melted. It didn't take long for a small part of the cold abyss Ghost King's soul to burn out. I'm here, waiting for you to drag that tombstone over, White Bones said indifferently. All right. Cold Abyss Ghost King replied. The same goes for you. White Bones looked at the soul shadows of the other 4 ghostly kings floating in front of him. Chuling smiled bitterly. Thousand Tribulations and Black Scepter remained silent. Luo Ho had a complicated expression on her face. Yu Yuan is condensing his nether soul in the nether capital, White Bones said casually. If he can release that man's sword incantation, you'll be in an even more passive position. If my guess is correct, the reason why you've been hiding in the Soul Crossing River for so many years is because you still haven't fully digested that man's sword power, right? If he can activate the remaining sword power in his sword intent, he'll be able to inflict serious damage on you. Is that true? White Bones stared at the belt. This time, the Mingdu Ghost King in the Soul Crossing River did not reply immediately. Chuling asked in astonishment, My lord, how long has it been? You really do know everything, Yuling. After a while, the Nether Capital Ghost King let out a sigh. It wasn't easy for me to escape from that man's sword. How could I have done it without paying a heavy price? You're right. The reason I can't leave the Soul Crossing River is because I haven't fully digested the sword power. If that's the case, then why are you still here? White Bones' eyes flashed with disdain. You know who I am, and you've seen me become a ghostly king. With your understanding of me, what do you think you can do in your current state? Fine. I'll come back later, the Nether Capital Ghost King snorted. Whoosh. The belt wrapped around Jiang Xingwen's body again. As she screamed in terror, she was taken away by the Soul Crossing River and disappeared. White Bones, she? Luo Ho asked softly. She can help the Nether Capital digest the remaining sword power. White Bones looked at Luo Ho, hesitated, and said, For Yu Yuan's sake, don't provoke me. I'll let bygones be bygones. Luo Ho smiled bitterly. We've seen enough. You 3 go back to where you came from, White Bones said coldly. Chuling, Thousand Tribulations, and Black Staff didn't say a word. Their soul shadows gradually faded. The soul power of the soul shadows was quietly flowing away. This meant that they were all withdrawing power. Soon, only Luo Ho was left. He even split off a soul shadow to stay in this small space. Why didn't you open the small space behind earlier and let the power flow out? Luo Ho hesitated and asked. You could have become a ghostly king earlier. She could see that White Bones had used the power of the hazy silver light to become a ghostly king, and then became like this. White Bones had never lost his memories. He knew that his previous body was hidden behind, and that it was still full of Een sunflower essence and vast, refined Een energy. If White Bones had opened the small space and gathered the power, he would have become a ghostly king long ago. Why did he have to go through so much trouble to kill ghostly beings of the same rank? He had almost been killed because of this. Why did he have to do this? Luo Ho couldn't understand. If I can defeat you and become a ghostly king through that battle, it will be even more beneficial to me. White Bones' eyes were cold as he said indifferently. I don't want to use the trump card I left behind in the past. With Yu Ling's remaining power, becoming a ghostly king was something I had no choice but to do. I came back because I calculated that the land of terror would welcome an unprecedented prosperity. I came for the paramount ghostly god. He didn't continue speaking. Luoho fell into deep thought. Behind White Bones, the nether river of the Ain slowly flowed in the small space. The tall and handsome Yuling Ghost King with a gentle aura was already submerged in the stream of the nether river. A bit of the Ain sunflower essence, accumulated in his body, would occasionally fly out and flash into Yu Yuan's body. Yu Yuan sat beside the flowing nether river and silently cultivated. The raccoon-shaped ghostly being shook and was the first to wake up. It had successfully evolved and become a heavenly ghost. Its green eyes, the same color as White Bones, suddenly shone. It shouted in surprise, "My lord is here." Yuan Lianyao, who was not far away, opened her eyes and said in surprise, "What did you say?" "My lord is outside. He's here." The raccoon-shaped ghostly being seemed very excited. "I want to go find my lord." Whoosh! In an instant it went from the small space inside the small space to the outside world where White Bones and Luoho were. "My lord, this subordinate sees you again." As soon as he saw Bai Gu, this loyal subordinate of Bai Gu's started to cry and wail. "Many of our companions were killed. My lord, you have to uphold justice for us." White Bones slowly nodded and said, "You did well." Chapter 780. White Bone leaned against a crack in the stone. Its short bone body was like a sacred snow-white mountain. The aura it exuded was domineering and arrogant. It made Luoho, who was also a ghost king, tremble. Luoho observed White Bone and wondered who Ghost King Yuling had become in her previous life after he reincarnated as a human. Even if Bai Gu, whose memories were preserved, were to turn into an ordinary mortal who didn't have much talent for cultivation, with the wisdom, methods, and exquisite understanding of the soul he displayed, he would still soar into the heavens. He would cultivate to an extremely high realm and shine brightly in the vast world. Moreover, looking at the time, Yuling should have turned into a human and cultivated before her. Most of the time, temperament don't change. Luoho pondered. It's unlikely that such an arrogant guy's nature would change after he turned into a human. In the era before me, who in Howran had a temperament similar to his? My lord, my lord! The ghost that had evolved into a heavenly ghost in the form of a raccoon monkey chattered endlessly. Now that it knew White Bone had become a ghost king, it wanted to immediately charge out with White Bone and go to the Ain Mountain, where White Bone cultivated to kill all the dark ghosts gathered there and Xuantianzong's people. Ghost kings and dark ghosts weren't on the same level. After White Bone Ghost became White Bone Ghost King, it had the ability to punish all ghosts and spirits and seek justice for the warrior's companions. However, White Bone was unmoved. It ignored its words and wasn't in a hurry to leave the ground. "What are you waiting for?" Luoho suddenly asked. "Waiting for Yu Yuan to condense a Ain spirit, waiting for Frost Abyss's true body to descend, waiting for Mingdu to wear away that remnant sword energy." White Bone's eyes were indifferent. "I'm still waiting for the souls of the dead to increase in the outside world and for the source of the Ain vein to undergo even more shocking changes. I'm waiting for the soil to form for me to become a ghost god." Luoho murmured. Knowing that White Bone in front of her was Ghost King Yuling, who had once been strong enough to challenge Mingdu, Luoho realized how cruel the battle between ghosts and gods in the Land of Terror was. Mingdu, the current White Bone, and the most mysterious Tian Song. She thought these three were difficult to fight. Chuling was also a difficult ghost king to deal with. On the other hand, Thousand Calamity, Black Staff, and Frigid Abyss, she felt that she could still put up a fight. She, who had wanted to compete for the ghost god, suddenly hesitated. "I have a suggestion." White Bones shouted. "What?" Luoho was surprised. "You lend me a hand. Help me become a specter." White Bones said to her in a casual tone, "When I become a ghost god, I can help you kill the current leader of voodoo, your good junior brother. As for Zhong Chichen of the medicine god sect, you need to think of a way yourself." As soon as these words were spoken, Luo Hu's expression suddenly changed. "You know?" White Bones nodded slowly. "I know who you are." "When did you find out?" "A long time ago, when you entered the land of terror and changed your Yin soul to cultivate the ghost Tao, I knew who you were." White Bones slowly revealed all the secrets he knew. After becoming a ghost king, you have the choice to be reborn as a human. If you choose this path, I can also tell you my experience so that you can be reincarnated successfully. If you help me, I will help you. Think about it seriously. After White Bones finished speaking, Luo Hu's gaze changed unpredictably, and she fell into a long silence. At the side, the raccoon monkey ghost, who had been chattering non-stop, also quieted down. It looked at White Bones in surprise, and then looked at Luo Hu. Lord White Bones actually wanted to persuade the newly promoted Ghost King Luo Hu to help her become a ghost god? Looking at Luo Hu's expression, she was actually moved and was really thinking about it. Lord White Bones' suggestion? Lord was already so powerful now? When did you make your decision? White Bones turned and looked at the shocked subordinate. After wavering for so long, why did you choose to find Yu Yuan at the last moment and tell him what I told you? Lord, what are you talking about? The raccoon monkey ghost asked blankly. Between me and Mingdu, why did you choose me? I know that Mingdu came to find you and told you that Hun Duwei was him, and he made a promise. White Bones' eyes shone with interest. This subordinate deserves to die. This subordinate deserves to die. The raccoon monkey ghost hurriedly knelt at his feet and kowtowed in its spirit form. Luo Hu's face paled. Mingdu personally found him? Mingdu drove Jiang Xingwen and saw him outside. Small stones appeared in the white jade-like palm of Baigu. Every small stone was glowing. I thought you would listen to Mingdu and tell me everything. If it was Jiang Xingwen and Mingdu who came here first, and not Yu Yuan, the result would be different. You even know this. Luo Hu felt that he was more and more terrifying. White Bones snorted coldly. The raccoon monkey ghost knelt there, trembling in fear. Lord, I made a wise decision in the end. Please forgive me. Why? Because my intuition tells me that Lord will always win. No matter who the opponent is, whether it is Mingdu or another ghost king, I believe that Lord will have the last laugh. When the raccoon monkey ghost said these words, his tone was firm, and his eyes shone with the light of conviction. That light was incomparably dazzling. I am very satisfied with your answer. White Bones passed the small stones in his hand to the ghost. Swallow them and refine the power inside into the depths of your soul. These 6 stones will each absorb a wisp of your soul. If you encounter a situation of certain death, I can revive you if any stone escape. Thank you for your favor, Lord. This is what you deserve. Yuan Lianyao suddenly woke up. In that small silver-gray space, she was cleansing and refining her Yin spirit through the pure and vast Yin energy. She felt an emotionless gaze on her, and her soul felt cold. Only then did she wake up. She, who was at the late stage of the Yin spirit realm, used the Yin energy in this small space to cultivate the exquisite soul arts of the Red Devil School. It was half the result with twice the effort. Moreover, she could faintly feel that in this small space, her Yin spirit had a chance to advance and reach the soul-traversing realm. But now, awakened, she glared angrily in front of her. The fiendish demon cauldron floated, and a little girl in gray linen clothes appeared at the mouth of the cauldron. The little girl's face was slightly hazy, and she looked at her quietly with an indifferent and emotionless expression. Cauldron soul? Yuan Lianyao suddenly reacted. The little girl was expressionless. I have a name. I am Yui. Only in front of her master, Yu Yuan, would she be lively and youthful. When facing other beings, she would only show indifference and coldness. The female general, Liu Chan, had experienced this before and understood it deeply. "Why did you come out?" Yuan Lianyao asked curiously. "I hope you know what's good for you and leave here." Yu Yi sat at the mouth of the cauldron, her legs swaying gently. Her snow-white bare feet rippled with a charming white luster. "I don't know how much Yin Spirit Master needs to condense his Yin Spirit, but I know that the Yin energy in this small space is different from the outside and the Yin mountain." "It is indeed different," Yuan Lianyao answered. The Yin energy in this small space had been refined countless times and could directly merge with the soul without further refining. Every wisp of Yin energy contained dozens of times more Yin energy than the outside, just like the difference between spiritual sense and soul power. The Yin energy here is not endless and will not increase. Yu Yi's face was cold as she said in a rigid tone, "That little thing didn't need much Yin energy to become a heavenly ghost. You are different. If you break through to the soul wander realm, you will take at least half of the Yin energy." "What do you mean?" Yuan Lianyao was confused. "Because of this, it may cause unpredictable effects on Master's transformation into his Yin spirit." Yu Yi's legs stopped swaying and she leaned forward as if she wanted to see more clearly. "You don't understand what it means for Master to condense his Yin spirit in the land of despair. If a human can break through in the land of despair and condense a Yin spirit in the land of despair, he will receive the blessing of the source of the Yin veins. There are many benefits for Master to condense his Yin spirit here, and he can even communicate with the source of the Yin veins. I don't want any accidents to happen to Master's breakthrough." Her attitude was very clear, she was driving her away. There are so many benefits to breaking through to the Yin spirit realm in the land of despair? Yuan Lianyao quickly calmed down. "Is that true?" "That's right." Yu Yi's expression was cold. "I only know that those who become Yin spirits will receive the blessing of the source of the Yin veins and have many mysteries. On the other hand, those who dare to condense a Yang spirit in the land of despair will be targeted by the source of the Yin veins and suppressed by the great Tao. Condensing a Yang spirit is strictly forbidden in the land of despair. If anyone violates it, all the souls and ghosts in the land of despair have the responsibility to kill them. Once they succeed, the source of the Yin veins will give them a reward. Chao Jiazi from Xuantianzong has such an idea." Yu Yi explained the knowledge she had just awakened to Yuan Lianyao. Eyebrows furrowed, Yuan Lianyao couldn't accept it and asked for confirmation. "I told you that the source of the Yin veins has intelligence and awareness. Is it really so mysterious? This world is very large, and the outside world is even larger. Not all intelligent beings have physical bodies." Yu Yi's face was full of disdain. As the source of the Yin veins, as a magical being that carries the cycle of life and death in the Howren heaven and earth, it has self-awareness. What's so strange about that? After a moment of hesitation, Yuan Lianyao's illusory body suddenly floated out of the cauldron. "Please take good care of him." "Of course." The corner of Yu Yi's mouth rose slightly. With a whoosh, Yuan Lianyao flew back the way she had come and flew out of this small, silver-gray heaven and earth. At the mouth of the cauldron, Yu Yi turned around and looked at Yu Yuan, whose 7 acupoints were shining like silver stars in his chest. She laughed softly with satisfaction. Sitting by the Nether River in the Nether World, Yu Yuan, who had been refining Yin sunflower essence and fusing it into his body, still had 7 acupoints in his chest open. The shining silver acupoints were arranged in the shape of the Big Dipper. "In the future, when I can condense enough fiendish demons, Master's battle prowess will be greatly improved." Yu Yi was in high spirits. "The Yin sunflower essence will be of great help to Master. When more acupoints are opened and thousands of fiendish demons enter them, the Master of this generation will definitely surpass the previous one in the future." Chapter 781. Within the Nether River, the motionless Yu-Ling Ghost King had no aura at all. Following that, specks of sunflower essence left his body. This Ghost King, who had once looked down on the land of terror, had his flesh flabby. His body quietly shrank, and he gradually became shorter. The sunflower essence and refined chi were the key to his body, not rotting after tens of thousands of years. The loss of power caused the current situation. Yue could see the minute changes in the Yu-Ling Ghost King from time to time. She didn't show the slightest emotion, as all she could think about was how long it would take her master, Yu Yuan, to transform her earthly soul into a nether soul in this small heaven and earth. Time passed quietly like water. After an unknown amount of time, the silver meridians in Yu Yuan's chest suddenly gave off a light that surprised her. In the next instant, even more sunflower essence flew out of the Yu-Ling Ghost King's body and disappeared into Yu Yuan's body like thousands of fireflies. The tall and handsome Yu-Ling Ghost King seemed to have been eroded by endless time in an extremely short amount of time. Yue frowned slightly. She noticed that the skin of this Ghost King's body had turned grayish-white like dried tree bark. The light and magic had all disappeared. At this moment, the thousands of fiendish demons inside the cauldron seemed to smell the vast chi and let out ocean-like screams. The fiendish demons wanted to charge out and fight with Yu Yuan for the thick chi here. Yue's face was cold as she harumphed. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh! The water of the Nether River flowed and washed the Yu-Ling Ghost King's body. A terrifying power suddenly descended and filled this small world. Yue, who was in it, instinctively felt terrified and uneasy. She looked at the gurgling Nether River in the Netherworld in a slight panic. The sound of the Nether River flowing in the Nether River kept changing as if someone was whispering. Yue was dazed for a moment, her eyes filled with unease. She actually bowed toward the Nether River. Then, she controlled the fiendish demon cauldron and floated out like Yuan Lianyao. What's wrong with you? In the outside world, Yuan Lianyao covered her mouth and exclaimed when she saw the fiendish demon cauldron floating out. She had too many doubts in her heart. Yuan Lianyao was confused when she saw Bai Gu, who had become a ghostly king, and the newly promoted Luo Ho ghostly king. She did not have time to ask for clarification. All of a sudden, the fiendish demon cauldron that had driven her out also left that small world. Yue did not appear in the fiendish demon cauldron floating in the air. She seemed to be hiding in a small space inside, and did not want to expose herself at this moment. On the other hand, Bai Gu's green eyes shone with a mysterious light. He should have officially started. What? Yuan Lianyao was confused. When I was condensing my spirit, I alarmed the will of the source of the vein. Bai Gu seemed to know everything. A guy like him would naturally be detected by the source of the vein if he tried to break through to the spirit realm in the land of terror. The Nether River can be seen as a tentacle of its will. It repels all unrelated living beings. As it spoke, Bai Gu glanced at the fiendish demon cauldron. The meaning in its words was that the souls of the cauldron, Yue, Consort Han, Blood Moon, and all the other fiendish demons in the cauldron were not recognized by the source of the vein. They were all rejected when Yu Yuan was condensing his spirit. Bai Gu, what do you know? Yuan Lianyao asked. He's very special, much more special than you think. When he was in the subtle realm, he stepped into the land of terror with the fiendish demon cauldron in hand. He was rushing for this moment, Bai Gu said confidently. He might not even know it himself. Everything has been arranged. It's Zuan, Luo Ho interjected. She had a secret conversation with Yu Yuan. From Yu Yuan, she knew that it was Zuan of Heaven-Reaching Peak who had instructed Zhou Yu to bring Yu Yuan to the land of terror so that he could avoid disaster there. Now, after hearing Bai Gu's words, she immediately understood that Zhu An's arrangement had a deeper meaning. Zuan. So it was his arrangement. No wonder, Bai Gu nodded lightly, the light of wisdom shining in its eyes. You don't have to be nervous. He'll be able to condense his Yin spirit in that small space and benefit from it for life. In the long history of the Land of Terror, there are only a handful of examples of humans who arrived here with their own flesh and blood and transformed their souls into Yin spirit. If he succeeds, he'll be recognized by the source of the Yin vein. He'll be like Mingdu and become the darling of this world. Like Yue, he clearly knew the deepest secrets of the Land of Terror. He knew that if a human cultivator succeeded in breaking through to the Yin spirit realm in this world, he would receive great benefit. He could see further and deeper. He could even guess that there was another big shot like Zuan behind this who had arranged everything. "I'll break through to the Yin spirit realm here," Luo Ho shouted. In Yu Yuan's small world in his sea of consciousness, inside the illusory body of the Earth Soul, which had been separated from the heavenly soul and the primary soul, countless wisps of spiritual sense were condensed. They were like slender pythons, crazily absorbing the Yin Qi and refining it. He was carefully sensing every subtle change in the Earth Soul. His spiritual sense was originally like a drifting mist in the illusory soul body. However, as he cultivated the great Yin soul art, he absorbed more and more Yin Qi. Dozens of spiritual senses mixed and intertwined with each other. As he continued to refine them, they became as clear as water and flowed within his Earth Soul body. This process was very similar to his time in the small world of the Yellow Court. The spiritual mist was cleansed and condensed into spiritual energy. Dozens of wisps of spiritual sense condensed into a wisp of soul thought. Spiritual sense is like mist, and soul thought is like water. Yu Yuan pondered and carefully sensed. His mind moved and he immediately understood a fact. Spiritual sense could only sense the outside world and visualize the world in one's internal organs and acupoint. It had no offensive power. At most, it could be poured into the scabbard and fused with spiritual energy, blood, and meridians to channel spiritual energy and blood. Spiritual sense itself couldn't be used as a sharp blade to attack the enemy's soul. This was because spiritual sense was in the form of a light mist. It was too scattered and not condensed enough. Naturally, it couldn't effectively kill the enemy. Soul thought was different. Soul thought, or soul power, was the same as blood, and spiritual energy. When concentrated, it could penetrate into the enemy's small world in the sea of consciousness and transform into sharp blades or lightning to directly attack the enemy's soul. Only when soul thought was formed could a true soul battle begin. The transformation of the Yin spirit was the replacement of spiritual sense with soul thought in the illusory body of the Earth Soul. What flowed in the soul were wisps of soul power. Soul thought flowed faster. Whether it was pouring into an item, releasing it outside, or inspecting one's body, it was 10 times faster than spiritual sense. Spiritual sense was refined into soul thought. This was a heaven-shaking, earth-shattering change. So this is the process of the Earth Soul's transformation. Only after experiencing it can I understand its mysteries. Yu Yuan's mind surged. All of his concentration and consciousness gathered on the Earth Soul in his Niwen acupoint, watching every little change that quietly occurred to the Earth Soul. A long time later, his attention was diverted. He saw that the heavenly soul no longer took the initiative to devour Yin energy or make any unnecessary movements. The heavenly soul only used another thought to guide the cultivation of the fiend demon body tempering art. It collected Yin sunflower essence and merged it into its body bit by bit. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sound of the Nether River flowing in the Nether world suddenly became extremely loud. It penetrated his eardrums and woke him up abruptly. He opened his eyes somewhat reluctantly. Then he noticed that the raccoon-shaped ghost, Yuan Lianyao, and the fiend demon cauldron had all left at some point while he was cultivating. He and Yue still couldn't communicate telepathically. He couldn't sense Yue's existence. When did they all leave? Whoosh! the tall, feminine, and handsome body of the Ghost King flew out of the netherworld's netherworld. Under his eyes, the body of the Ghost King that was originally overflowing with sunflower essence actually turned to dust and smoke in the air, and slowly dissipated. The body of the serene Ghost King that had been sealed for who knows how many years dissipated and disappeared. An extremely small portion of the sunflower essence and remaining power in the body was absorbed by white bones. It evolved into a Ghost King, and its body of white bones became even stronger. The other portion of the sunflower essence merged into Yu Yuan's body and helped him open 7 acupoints in his chest. There was also some energy that scattered in this small silver-gray world. It mixed with the energy from the netherworld's netherworld and continued to be absorbed and refined by Yu Yuan. Yu Yuan suddenly stared at the netherworld's netherworld. There seemed to be millions of thoughts flying through the river like lightning. The source of the vein. Chapter 782. The dried-up nether river gurgled. At the bottom of the river, thousands of tiny consciousnesses flew like lightning bolts without rest. An icy will that didn't contain any human emotions suddenly descended upon the nether river. The thousands of tiny consciousnesses at the bottom of the river were the thoughts that flowed through this will, the light of its wisdom. The source of the veins. Yu Yuan's heart trembled violently as he instantly realized that the most mysterious and profound ancient will of Howren had descended out of nowhere. He had long since known that the source of the veins beneath the Land of Terror ran through the entire Howren. Furthermore, they possessed a high level of wisdom, and were a type of magical lifeform that was different from flesh and blood beings. The source of the veins had thoughts, consciousness, and wisdom. It was the most ancient lifeform in this world. No one knew when the source of the veins had been born, or when it had gained consciousness. However, there was a publicly acknowledged fact. The source of the veins had been born before all living beings. First came the source of the veins, then came the demons, humans, livestock, birds, and insects. There was even a saying that without the source of the veins, this part of Howren wouldn't have been able to give birth to outstanding beings. Every underworld river was a gift from it. Only by obtaining its favor and recognition could a underworld river be extended to it. Only then could a underworld river be extended to it. Only then could a underworld ghost-level ghost evolve into a Ghost King. Its will was omnipresent in the Land of Terror. As long as it wanted to, it would be able to sense and understand everything that set foot in the Land of Terror at the first moment. Every nether river in the netherworld was its sole tentacle. It could transmit its thoughts, and consciousness without any hindrance, and even materialize them. Yu Yuan took a deep breath and maintained a sitting posture. With a respectful expression, he said in a deep voice, "My name is Yu Yuan, and I come from the Qianxian continent. A wisp of will floated out of the nether river. This is the second time you've come." Yu Yuan went blank. The will from the source of the veins didn't make any sound or unusual soul awareness fluctuations, but it expressed itself very clearly. The first time you came was more than 300 years ago. You were still on the path of cultivation, and only knew how to refine medicine. The will from the source of the veins came from the thousands of streaks of light in the nether river. You used to be called Haunch. Yu Yuan was shocked. This was his deepest secret. In his entire life, no one had been able to see through this secret and know his origins. However, the source of the vein had sent a wisp of its consciousness down and revealed the truth. Your reincarnation was also through me. All living beings born in Howren, no matter who they are, have to go through me. The source of the vein told him the reason with an emotionless, mechanical, and absolutely cold tone. Yu Ling in my previous life and Bai Gu in this life are the same. It's not just you. In the endless river of time, all those who are reborn will have to go through my approval. I am in charge of the reincarnation, and rebirth of all life in Howren. The will of the source of the Unveil said this fact that all the peak experts knew without any ripples. After the initial shock, Yu Yuan quickly adjusted his breathing and state of mind. He slowly calmed down and spoke again. Hanch in my previous life, and Yu Yuan in this life greet the reincarnation enforcer of Howren. His expression, tone, and actions were full of respect. Such a mysterious ancient existence had suddenly sent a wisp of its consciousness down and spoke to him through the source of the Unveil. It was definitely a great honor for him. In his previous life, as the sect master of the Medicine God sect, he had seen peak essence soul and demon god, but he had never had the chance to sense the source of the Unveil. Not to mention speaking directly to the source of the Unveil. As the most ancient will of life in this vast world and the mysterious existence that controlled the cycle of life and death, it had witnessed the prosperity of the dragon race, the development of the demon race, the rise of the human race, and the invasion of the heavenly demons and other races. It had silently watched for countless years without any emotions, joy, or worry. Such an existence suddenly favored him and sent a wisp of its consciousness. What was the reason? I gathered more Qi here to help you condense your spirit. Help me kill Mingdu. The source of the Unveil's consciousness came from the Nether River in the Netherworld. You are holding the scabbard that person left behind, and you have that person's sword soul. When you arrived at the Land of Terror, I sensed it and have been secretly observing you to see if you are as the outside world said. After watching for a long time, I began to believe you. Perhaps you have such ability. However, you need me to help you again. That's why I officially started a conversation with you in this Netherworld's Nether River. The source of the Unveil said indifferently. An indescribably strange look appeared on Yu Yuan's face as she stared fixedly at the flowing river. Nether capital? You mean the Mingdu Ghost King? That's him. Yu Yuan frowned deeply. He had heard some stories about this legendary Ghost King in the Land of Terror. He knew that the Mingdu Ghost King might be the only ruler in the history of the Land of Terror. In the era before Mingdu appeared, there were often many Ghost Kings in the Land of Terror at the same time. However, when there were many Ghost Kings, none of them were willing to submit to each other. Only in Mingdu's era did all the Ghost Kings have to listen to him. After Mingdu rushed into outer space, the Land of Terror was still the same as before. Many Ghost Kings coexisted and none of them were willing to submit to each other. In the ancient legends, the Mingdu Ghost King was born in the Netherworld's Nether River. Some even said that he was a part of the source of the Unveil. He could command many Ghost Kings because when he was at his peak, he could control every Nether River that came from the source of the Unveil. Every Ghost King's power and combat strength were closely related to the Nether River that extended from them. Mingdu could control the Nether River, so he was stronger than the other Ghost Kings. The other Ghost Kings were naturally not his match. They could only submit to him obediently. Mingdu was actually seen as a target to be eliminated by the source of the Unveil. What was going on? Yu Yuan found it hard to understand. I know what you are puzzled about. Mingdu was indeed born because of me. It can also be seen as a part of me. I won't say what happened in between. You were once an alchemist and also researched poisons. I will explain it to you like this. You can see the current Mingdu as the poison that has settled in my body. He has long escaped my control. In the later stages, he even wanted to enslave me and change the unbreakable rules of reincarnation. He even took the liberty to cross the Soul River and leave the Land of Terror. This time, he wants to become a ghost god in the Land of Terror. If he succeeds, the rules that the Land of Terror has held firm for thousands of years will be completely broken. I will help you condense your spirit. Promise me that you will quickly find him and strike the Soul River to kill the Mingdu that is hiding in it. His soul is still being eroded by that person's sword energy in the soul river. Before his body is transported from outer space, his soul will be destroyed and he will no longer be a threat. The source of the Yin vein told Yu Yuan the secret of the Mingdu Ghost King in detail. It told him that although the Mingdu Ghost King was killed by a moon-severing realm cultivator, his body was left in outer space. A wisp of his remnant soul hid in the Soul River and returned to the land of terror. The Mingdu Ghost King's body seemed to have been found after many years. Taking advantage of the chaos in Howren, a mysterious person, who represented an unknown faction, was escorting the Mingdu Ghost King's body towards Howren. If it was in the past, it would be impossible for that person to step into Howren. In outer space, the Freedom Realm cultivators and even Primordial Spirit Realm cultivators of the 5 supreme factions would make him die without a burial place. But now, the 5 supreme factions couldn't even take care of themselves. The Mingdu Ghost King's body was very likely to be transported to the land of terror. If the Mingdu Ghost King's body and soul were to be reunited in the land of terror, with the help of the vast Yin Qi here and Mingdu's familiarity with this place, no one would be able to kill the Mingdu Ghost King in the land of terror after his injuries healed. The rest of the Ghost Kings would probably surrender just like they did in the past. If the Mingdu Ghost King took the chance to become a ghost god, the source of the Yin vein would be controlled by him, and the world would be in chaos. This chaos would be even harder to control than the invasion of the Shunhun sect and the invasion of the heavenly demons from outer space. Mingdu. Yu Yuan's expression was dark. After thinking for a while, he suddenly said, "Yu Ling, which side is Bai Gu on now?" "He's on your side. We're both here to kill the Mingdu." The source of the Yin vein transmitted its thoughts again. Bai Gu's flames can refine the Mingdu Ghost King's soul. If the two of you work together, the Mingdu Ghost King will disappear from the land of terror. Bai Gu has communicated with you before. Yu Yuan shouted. "You can say so," the source of the Yin vein replied. Yu Yuan didn't hesitate and shouted, "I agree." As soon as he finished speaking, the vast Yin Qi in the Netherworld River was attracted by the power of the source of the Yin vein. It rushed madly into Yu Yuan's small world in his mind. Don't worry about running out of Yin Qi. You can absorb as much as you want with your heavenly soul. Yu Yuan looked around with rapt attention, and found that his small world in his mind was filled with misty Yin Qi. Then it would be impolite to refuse. Outside, Yuan Lianyao and Luoho were still talking about Yu Yuan and looking at the baleful demon cauldron from time to time. Bai Gu was blocking the crack in the stone, unmoving like a mountain. Its emerald eyes were no longer flickering with light, as if it were cultivating in meditation. After a long time, both Ghost King Bai Gu and Ghost King Luoho shuddered slightly. Bai Gu turned his head to look behind him. Ghost King Luoho's eyes were also fixed on the crack in the stone behind him. He seemed even more shocked than Bai Gu. Is it it?" Luoho asked with difficulty. Bai Gu nodded. "It is. It's communicating with Yu Yuan in that small space." Yuan Lianyao exclaimed, "Who is it?" "The source of the Yin vein," Bai Gu said indifferently. "Ah." Yuan Lianyao, who was worried that something would happen to Yu Yuan, was shocked to hear that it was the source of the Yin vein in the land of terror. She was dumbfounded. The floating baleful demon cauldron also shook violently at this moment. Yue, the soul of the cauldron, was obviously listening to the conversation outside. After learning that the source of the Yin vein had come in person, Yue also panicked, not knowing what was going on inside. "Bai Gu, I agree to your proposal." Ghost King Luoho no longer hesitated. "My true body will immediately come from my territory and fight side by side with you. I will do my best to help you become a ghost god in the land of terror. I hope you can keep your promise." Ghost King Bai Gu nodded slightly. "I will." Chapter 783. A thick fog of cold air enveloped a huge ice tombstone, whistling in the harsh cold wind. Thousands of beams of icy light could be seen in the depths of the mist, interweaving with soul awareness and forming a blurry soul shadow. Crack! As the frigid mist passed, bits of ice crystals were condensed and fused into the tombstone. The ice tombstone gradually grew taller and taller as it flew through the air. Nearly 10,000 powerful ghosts followed the cold mist and flew through the air in a grandiose manner. Their aura was astonishing to the extreme. The Frigid Abyss Ghost King. The Frigid Abyss Ghost King's army is marching towards Baigu's territory. A Ghost King is a peak expert like the Frigid Abyss Ghost King also coveting Baigu's territory and the Een Sunflower Essence? I'm afraid Baigu is doomed. Many specters discussed the Frigid Abyss Ghost King from the top of the Een Mountain where the frigid mist flew. These specters entrenched in the Een Mountain didn't know that Baigu had advanced from a specter to a Ghost King. They all thought that the Een Sunflower Essence that had suddenly appeared in Baigu's territory had attracted the specters and the Frigid Abyss Ghost King. They were surprised that the Frigid Abyss Ghost King had come in person and brought the ice tombstone with him. According to what they had learned, Baigu had been defeated by Luo Ho and provoked by the specters. He had stepped out of his Een Mountain and suffered even more injuries after the battle. Baigu had been trapped by the Een Mountain where he cultivated and didn't dare to come out. Was such a Baigu worth the Frigid Abyss Ghost King's army? Half a day later, a petite, slender figure holding a flower basket flew out of Luo Ho's territory. Surrounded by colorful light, she morphed into a streak of dazzling light and flew towards Baigu's territory. Luo Ho. Ghoul King Luo Ho. The new Ghoul King Luo Ho has left his territory and is also heading towards Baigu's territory like the Frigid Abyss Ghost King. The Frigid Abyss Ghost King and Luo Ho are both on the move. What on earth happened in Baigu's territory? What happened? Many spirits and ghosts felt an itch in their hearts. Some of the bolder ones who weren't afraid of death also rushed over. The Frigid Abyss Ghost King alone was enough to shock them. They were even more curious about Luo Ho, who had just become a Ghost King. As a result, many of the stronger ghosts and spirits in the various territories also made their move. The area under White Bone's jurisdiction had become the most eye-catching place in the Terrors. The territory that originally belonged to Grey Granny Ghost. Jiang Xingwen was sitting at the foot of a pitch-black mountain. All the ghosts that had attached themselves to her had been driven away by her. She looked at the belt named Soul Crossing River that was quietly placed in front of her. Her face was gloomy and her eyes alternated between anger and confusion. After a long time, whoosh, Jiang Xingwen's Een spirit slipped into the belt and entered the inner space of the Soul Crossing River. In the depths of the river, a tyrannical and ferocious soul suddenly appeared like a mountain. This was an incomparably tall human male. He wore heavy green armor and had a resolute expression on his face. He had a pair of enchanting black eyes that emitted a calm and mysterious light. The man exuded a majestic and domineering aura, as if he had been the ruler of heaven and earth since he was born, and would never submit to anyone. Dark capital? Jiang Xingwen said bitterly. The man's aura was so strange that even she, who had descended as a Een spirit, couldn't help but want to worship him. She believed that as long as it was a ghost in the Terrors, as long as it smelled this man's aura, it would obediently choose to submit to him. She sighed. Only after seeing this man's soul in the inner space of the Soul Crossing River did she realize how insignificant and powerless she was. How could I dare to say that I'm his master? Jiang Xingwen's heart was filled with bitterness as she looked up at him, her emotions complicated. The tyrannical man suddenly crouched down and looked at her with a gentle smile. Even after crouching down, he was still much taller than Jiang Xingwen's Een spirit. It's just a soul, struggling at death's door as it crosses the Soul Crossing River. The man sighed softly and looked deeply at Jiang Xingwen from his crouching position. His eyes shone with a soul-stirring affection. From the moment you found me by chance and got me out of there, I could have killed you. You should know that it would be easy for me. Why didn't you do it? Jiang Xingwen lowered her head, not daring to look at him. She didn't dare to look into his eyes for too long. Jiang Xingwen, who had cultivated for 100 years and possessed the battle prowess of a soul wander realm cultivator and was somewhat famous in the Taiyuan sect, would never have imagined that she would be so scared in the face of a ghost king who had died in the terrors. It was because she was afraid of his power. You might not believe me, the man said with a self-deprecating laugh. I don't understand it myself. Maybe I was seriously injured by that moon-severing realm cultivator and was left with only a soul fragment, so I was too weak. From the moment you got me out, from the moment I regained my memories, I knew that I would never be able to do it to you. The man, who was only a soul fragment and couldn't even leave the soul-crossing river, still exuded a domineering aura. His domineering aura was masculine and majestic, completely different from that of the ghosts in the terrors. Anyone who faced him would have a hard time connecting him with ghosts. They wouldn't be able to sense that he was the former master of all the ghosts in the terrors, the nether capital Ghost King. Jiang Xingwen suddenly felt like she had lost her soul. When I come out, when my body returns from the outer realms, you and I will hold hands and travel through thousands of mountains and rivers. How does that sound? The man said with deep affection. His voice was 10,000 times more terrifying than the demonic words that heavenly demons used to bewitch people. This elder of the Taiyuan sect, Su Yan's master, had forgotten his original intentions and why he had come to the terrors. He was even about to forget who he was. She only lowered her head slightly and said in a voice as soft as a mosquito, "Please, don't lie to me." "I wouldn't dare." The nether capital Ghost King smiled brightly. His entire soul shadow seemed to glow. "With you by my side, what do I have to fear from Yu Ling, Yu Yuan, and the other thieves?" Jiang Xingwen looked at him in dazzlement. She screamed in her heart, "Just what kind of man is he?" In the ruins of a collapsed Yin mountain in Bai Gu's territory, there was a hole that led underground at the center of the rubble. The magnificent palace formed by the heavenly palace seal flew at a low altitude and stopped steadily 10 meters above the ground. Xuantianzong's Chao Jiazi leaned over the white jade railing and said, "That person went from the mountain, he was hiding into a secret place underground." Behind him, the Yin spirit experts of the Tianyuan continent had puzzled expressions. Originally, they were all waiting for the moment when the Yin mountain would shatter. Who would have thought that Chao Jiazi would suddenly drive the floating palace to the ruins of the Yin mountain without saying a word or explanation, and even say such a thing? Whoosh! A demonic blade with thousands of evil souls roaring inside also flew over. After stopping, Mo Yen sneakily poked out from the center of the blade. He cupped his fists at Chao Jiazi and chuckled. "I am the envoy of the Black Staff. Devil's Palace. Mo Yen." Someone who recognized him shouted these two names from behind Chao Jiazi. The crowd was in an uproar. Devil's Palace, the second strongest person in the Devil's Palace, the only son of the primordial spirit expert Zhu Zhenqin, and ranked in the top 3. Another bolt of purple lightning arrived in the blink of an eye, covering 1,000 miles. Blood God and Ziqing. Many cultivators of the Tianyuan continent gritted their teeth when they saw the beautiful figure in purple divine armor. They hated her even more than when they saw Mo Yen. "I came first on behalf of Ghost King Chuling." And Ziqing made her stance clear. She lowered her head and glanced at the cave. She sighed inside. She already knew everything that had happened below from Ghost King Chuling. At this moment, Ghost King Chuling's true body had secretly rushed over with the help of the spirit locking diagram. Bai Gu is actually Ghost King Yuling. She sighed as she thought about how Yu Yuan and Bai Gu had a common enemy. If they fought later, what method could she use to save Yu Yuan? Chapter 784. In the Depths of the Earth. As Bai Gu's body left the stone crack behind him, wisps of silver light seeped out of the stone crack like water, forming a full moon that enveloped this place once again. The full moon of light released a dazzling divine radiance, causing the souls within it to feel refreshed and their minds to become clear. Bathed in the light, Yuan Lianyao's manifested divinity and her bright red lotus throne were nourished and comprehended the mysteries within. Compared to the previous hazy silver halo, the newly formed one lacked some sunflower essence and had something else in it. Inside the light circle, one could vaguely see countless soul shadows floating up and down, taking on all kinds of forms. Staring at the light, Yuan Lianyao felt as if she was watching all living beings in the human world, living, fighting, loving, killing each other, and then walking towards death step by step. The light seemed to contain the secrets of life and death. Looking at the newly formed light, one of Ghost King Luo Ho's soul shadows sensed the profound truths of the ghost Tao it contained, and said softly, "Is that it?" Yuan Lianyao looked confused. "Who is it?" "That's it." Bai Gu nodded. After a moment of hesitation, he said to Yuan Lianyao, "You stay here. I'm going out to meet the Cold Abyss Ghost King and those dark ghosts." Upon hearing these words, the raccoon-shaped ghost instantly became excited. "My lord, you're finally going to fight. What about Yu Yuan?" Yuan Lianyao asked anxiously. "With that one looking after him, he'll be fine." Bai Gu pointed at the shining silver light and said, "I've been guarding him until now because I've been waiting for this thing to appear. Don't worry, other than the Mingdu Ghost King, none of the other Ghost Kings will be able to break through this light and enter the small world Yu Yuan is in." After sensing the arrival of the consciousness of the source of the Yin spirit, he knew that Yu Yuan was cultivating in his small world, and that nothing would happen to him. Since the source of the Yin spirit had replaced him to guard Yu Yuan, who could harm Yu Yuan in this land of terror except for the Mingdu Ghost King, who could represent part of the consciousness of the source of the Yin spirit. Just as Luo Ho was about to speak, his expression flickered. Bai Gu's dark green eyes suddenly shone with a strange light. They came so quickly. As Ghost Kings, Chuling, Thousand Tribulations, Black Staff, and Frigid Abyss were all Ghost Kings. No matter how hard they tried to conceal their auras, Bai Gu and Luo Ho would be able to sense them as long as they were within a certain range. This was similar to how Chuling and the others were able to pinpoint White Bone's exact location. White Bones and Rahu could sense that torrents of souls were either floating in the gloomy sky or diving into the ground. Some were as open as the frigid abyss, and some were as silent as the early spirit realm experts who were hiding in the soul-locking diagram. Apart from Tiantsang, the other Ghost King's true forms also approached. "When should I help you?" Rahu asked. "I'll contact you when I need you," White Bones replied. "I'll meet up with my true body first and wait for your news." After saying this, Luo Ho's soul shadow suddenly vanished. "You can continue to condense your Yin spirit here." Bai Gu glanced at Yuan Lianyao and said, "The Yin Qi here is a bit weaker than that of the small space inside, but it's still much more refined than outside. Aside from that, the Ring of Light contains the mysteries of the soul. You can study it with all your heart." After a pause, he said to the baleful demon cauldron, "That includes you. Thank you for your advice, Lord Whitebones." Yui's cold voice rang out from inside the cauldron. "I wish you victory, Lord Whitebones. It would be best if you didn't need my master's help." Yuan Lianyao was speechless. Whoosh! Whitebone turned into a streak of white light. His seemingly short and white bone body suddenly left the underground space. A moment later, White Bones suddenly appeared above the ruins. He looked up and saw the Blackscythe specter, which was made of 28 ebony beads. The Black Scythe specters' souls were all on the beads. The moment White Bones appeared, they laughed sinisterly and said, "White Bones!" Inside the Grand Palace, Chao Jiazi of Xuantianzong frowned and exclaimed softly, "Watch out!" Chu Yao of the Medicine God sect also paled when he saw White Bones appear. Mo Yen, who had come on the Kiara demonic saber, and Ziqing, who was wearing purple divine armor, couldn't help but distance themselves from the ruins after seeing White Bones. They had learned from Frigid Abyss, Chuling, and Black Cane that White Bones had claimed the title of king. Instead of hiding underground and protecting Yu Yuan, White Bones, who had claimed the title of king, had taken the initiative to appear. This was different from the information they had received, and greatly exceeded their expectations. According to the Ghoul Kings, White Bones was guarding the underground space and couldn't move. They were waiting for their true forms to descend and join forces to kill White Bones in the underground world. The Ghoul Kings were still on their way, but White Bones, who was supposed to be hiding underground, had come out first. White Bones suddenly stomped its foot and shot into the sky. In midair, thousands of white bony hands gently tapped the black sandalwood beads. The 28 black sandalwood beads were pierced by sharp blades like giant purplish-black grapes. The souls of the black-scythe ghosts flowed inside them like purplish-black liquid. White flames ignited inside White Bones and enveloped the souls of the black-scythe ghosts. White Bones' figure flashed in the air, and appeared where Black Scythe's subordinates were holding the giant scythe in the air. White Bones clenched its fists and punched the giant scythe that Black Scythe had painstakingly forged. Clang! Clang! Amid the sparks, the other part of Black Scythe's soul was shattered inside the scythe as if it was forging iron. Wisps of white flames also seeped into the scythe and wiped out Black Sickle's remnant soul, forcing Black Sickle to separate his soul and escape with a wisp of his consciousness. White Bones, who was in midair, stepped on the giant scythe and shone brightly. The Black Scythe ghosts' subordinates that were illuminated by the white light melted like snow. Under everyone's eyes, hundreds of spirits and ghosts were reduced to ashes in just a few seconds. White Bones Ghoul King! Oh my God, White Bones has become a Ghoul King! The 7th Ghoul King is born in the land of despair. The ghouls that had rushed in from other territories and had no grudges against White Bones and were just here to watch the show suddenly exclaimed. In the floating palace, Chao Jiazi quickly calmed down after the initial shock and said to Chu Yao behind him, "Brother Chu, try not to interfere later." Chu Yao nodded. "I know." Bang! The scythe under White Bones' feet suddenly cracked and turned into fragments that shot toward the fleeing Black Scythe subordinate. Cries and screams could be heard everywhere. The ghouls that had followed Black Scythe's orders died as soon as they were targeted. Black Scythe is dead. The Black Scythe ghosts didn't even have the power to resist before they were crushed by White Bones. Who will be after Black Scythe? While the ghouls that had gathered here were still discussing, White Bones' figure was like a flash of white lightning. In a few breaths, he arrived at the silver-white Een Mountain where he had been cultivating. "I'm afraid those ghouls won't be able to survive." A heavenly ghost looked from afar and knew that after White Bones became a Ghoul King, the ghouls that had attacked White Bones' territory with Black Scythe would all be killed. Those ghouls still didn't know what had happened. They didn't know that White Bones had successfully evolved and were still surrounding White Bones' old lair. An hour later, White Bones, whose entire body was burning with white flames, returned to the ruins. The ghouls that had been behind Black Scythe were all dead. White Bones stood alone in the ruins that were full of dust. He was like a white death god, harvesting the souls between heaven and earth. His green eyes were cold and merciless. He suddenly raised his head and looked at the palace. All the ghouls that had come from the Tianyuan continent in the palace felt a chill run down their spines, and subconsciously moved closer to Chao Jiazi. The floating palace, which had been transformed from a heaven palace seal, was enveloped in a vast amount of spiritual power. Chao Jiazi lowered his head and met White Bone's eyes. Then, he clasped his hands in greeting and said with a smile, "Lord White Bones, please wait for a moment. Frigid Depths is on his way." White Bone's eyes didn't waver as he said indifferently, "I'm waiting." "Miss N, what's Chuling's attitude?" Mo Yen, who was hiding in the Kiara demonic saber, approached and Zicheng carefully. A soul shadow floated out of the saber and said with a smile, "Lord Chuling should be on his way as well, right? Once the battle starts, Chuling will make a move, right? Will he make a move immediately or wait for the right opportunity?" And Zicheng's eyes were clear as she shook her head and said, "I don't know what Lord Chuling is thinking. Black Staff will join forces with Frigid Depth. However, we need Frigid Depths to take the lead." Mo Yen said, "White Bones is too much of a threat. Black Staff, Frigid Depths, and Thousand Tribulations have the same attitude. Let's get rid of White Bones first." And Zicheng snorted softly. "What about Nether Capital?" Upon hearing this, Mo Yen went blank for a moment. "Nether Capital?" And Zicheng's lips curled into a disdainful smile. "It seems that Black Staff isn't very close to your father. Didn't he tell you that the Nether Capital Ghoul King, the overlord of the Land of Terror in the previous era, has also appeared?" Mo Yan's face was ashen as he said in a low voice, "I'll ask him right now. P.S. I've caught a cold again. I'll update more when I feel better. Brothers, I'm sorry for this damned weather. Yes, it's the weather's fault." Chapter 785. Inside the Soul Crossing River. The Mingdu Ghost King's soul met the Yin soul of Jiang Xingwen of the Taiyuan sect. He used love to open Jiang Xingwen's heart and made this Taiyuan sect elder give up everything for him. The Mingdu Ghost King, who was tall and dressed in blue heavy armor, appeared in human form. His actions carried a domineering aura. Even Jiang Xingwen was mesmerized and unknowingly attracted to him. The Mingdu Ghost King smiled gently and spoke of his difficult path in the Land of Terror. He told Jiang Xingwen how he went through all kinds of dangers to become a Ghost King and how he reached the top. He told Jiang Xingwen of his great ambition and his ambition to be on par with the nascent soul realm of the human race. Jiang Xingwen listened and gradually fell. After an unknown amount of time, the soul-crossing river where the Mingdu Ghost King was suddenly shone with silver light. There seemed to be thousands of silver threads at the bottom of the river that formed the great wonder of reincarnation. The Mingdu Ghost King's mind moved slightly. A wisp of thought used the mysteries of the soul-crossing river to gather information in the netherworld's nether rivers thousands of miles away. He immediately understood the cold abyss Ghost King's movements and the traces of the other Ghost Kings. At the same time, a strange ripple appeared in his heart. He was stunned for a moment before a smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. "I didn't know that Yuan had such a background." "What?" Jiang Xingwen did not understand. "Nothing." The Mingdu Ghost King shook his head. "Go out for a while. I need to stop Yuan from breaking through. If he wants to form his Yin soul, he has to go through me first." Oh. Ever since this Mingdu Ghost King had confided his feelings and made a promise, Su Yan's master had been standing on his side. For him, she would go through a mountain of blades and sea of fire, betray the Taiyuan sect, betray the Hauran world. Whatever he said was what it was. Jiang Xingwen would cooperate with whoever he wanted to kill. As the only ruler of ghosts in the long history of the Land of Terror, the Mingdu Ghost King not only had a strong bewitching power towards ghosts, but he also had a great effect on Jiang Xingwen when he was in love. Jiang Xingwen's Yin spirit obediently withdrew from the soul-crossing river. "I need some souls to sacrifice themselves for me to cast my spell." The Mingdu Ghost King whispered a few words in the soul-crossing river with a strange voice. Outside, one after another, the specters that had come from thousands of kilometers away with no regard for anything else entered the soul-crossing river, with fervent light shining from their eyes. Shockingly, all of these specters were heavenly ghosts. Jiang Xingwen, who had just flown out, was surprised to see a few specters with auras as powerful as the specters. Those ghosts were extremely ferocious. The aura they exuded was ancient and distant, and there was even a strange smell of decay. They were the ones who attacked the Tongtian Trading Company's cloud cruiser and caused the Tongtian Trading Company to suffer heavy casualties. It was only after Li Mu showed up that the survivors were saved. At this moment, these ghosts with auras that were more powerful than the Black Scythe Ghost and the Wangchuan Ghost suddenly emerged from the darkness. I pledge my life to His Highness Mingdu. Thousands of years ago, we swore that whether we live or die, we will serve His Highness. Congratulations, Your Highness! A total of 8 powerful specters knelt down toward the soul-crossing river, floating in the air, and said sincerely. The 8 specters wore armor. Some were of a foreign race, and the sky was filled with twinkling stars. Some of the specters held sharp blades, which were legendary weapons in the Land of Terror. There were also specters that kept changing. Sometimes they were women, sometimes they were children. They were like powerful heavenly demons that were good at changing. These 8 specters were all subordinates of the Mingdu Ghost King in his early years. They were even more ancient than the Chuling Ghost King. They had followed the Mingdu Ghost King out of the Land of Terror and into the Howren outside. They had even made a lot of contributions when they were in the outer realms of stars. After the Mingdu Ghost King was killed by a moon-severing stage cultivator, his soul-crossing river returned to the Land of Terror. After his corpse was left in the outer realms of stars, many of the ferocious specters that followed him were killed. Only these 8 specters were lucky enough to survive. They either hid in some forbidden lands in the Howren or in the depths of the outer realms of stars. Because of the changes in the Land of Terror, because this place finally had the soil for the Mingdu Ghost King to become a specter god, and because of one person's summons, they all used different methods to return to their homeland, the Land of Terror. White Robe greets the Mingdu Ghost King. I'm willing to serve you for life. A white robe silently floated out from the depths of the earth. In the empty white robe, a specter beat his chest in greeting toward the soul-crossing river. His eyes were filled with sincere respect and the most fanatical worship. It was as if he was facing the supreme god of this world. White Robe Spectre. The moment Jiang Xingwen saw him, her body trembled. She couldn't believe it. In the Stardust Sea region, the White Robe Spectre, who had rushed out of the Howren with He Sun and a few Evil Path overlords and entered the outer realms of stars with the Blood Spirit altar, reappeared in the Land of Terror. When he faced the soul-crossing river and the Mingdu Ghost King inside, he was like the most fanatical cult follower. No one knew when the White Robe Spectre had pledged his loyalty to the Mingdu Ghost King. Greetings, Miss Jiang. Before leaving, the White Robe Spectre, who was ranked higher than Baigu among the titled specters, pointed at the 8 specters with ancient auras and explained to her, "These 8 were found one by one when I rushed to the Land of Terror and went to the outer realms of stars. They conveyed the will of the Mingdu Ghost King." When he said this, Jiang Xingwen instantly understood everything. These ancient specters that had suddenly appeared and attacked the Tongtian Trading Company were the subordinates of the Mingdu Ghost King in his early years. They had left with the Mingdu Ghost King and returned from the outer realms due to the great changes in the Yin energy in the Land of Terror and the Mingdu Ghost King's summons. They gathered behind the Mingdu Ghost King again to fight for him. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Many specters and heavenly ghosts went to the soul-crossing river with happy emotions because of the Mingdu Ghost King's summons. They allowed the Mingdu Ghost King to complete some kind of sacrifice. The Mingdu Ghost King's influence in the Land of Terror was simply amazing. The return of the 8 ancient specters and the White Robe Spectre's loyalty to him at some point in time showed that even if he hadn't truly shown himself, he was still a giant in this part of the world. Judging from the current team, Chuling, Blackstaff, Frigid Abyss, Thousand Calamity, Tiansong, and Luoho, these so-called Ghost Kings, were all inferior to the Mingdu Ghost King. Who knew how many other powerful specters like the white-robed specters in the dark also respected him? Mingdu Jiang Xingwen looked at the soul-crossing river again and felt her soul surge. She increasingly felt that the figure of the man inside was so imposing and dazzling. In the space inside the soul-crossing river, specters and heavenly ghosts bravely went to their death. Balls of soul light of different colors bloomed at the bottom of the river, transforming into strange soul talismans that secretly communicated with the nether river of the netherworld to help the Mingdu Ghost King cast spells. All the specters and heavenly ghosts that went to their deaths knew that they died for the Mingdu Ghost King, and that the Mingdu Ghost King wouldn't treat them unfairly. Legend had it that the Mingdu Ghost King had the ability to revive specters in the Land of Terror. As long as his subordinates died in the Land of Terror, as long as the Mingdu Ghost King valued them, he could expend some energy to revive them. It was because of this that countless specters and heavenly ghosts desperately wanted to attach themselves to the Mingdu Ghost King. When fighting other specters and heavenly ghosts with the Mingdu Ghost King, they didn't fear death. They all hoped to be noticed by the Mingdu Ghost King and be revived by the Mingdu Ghost King. My will, soul-crossing river. Deep underground, in the small silver-gray world, Yu Yuan, who had reached a secret agreement with the source of the Yin vein and obtained its favor, once again condensed the earth soul. He instantly felt a sea of pure Yin Qi pouring into the small world in his sea of consciousness. Strands of spiritual consciousness were kneaded together, transforming into a wisp of spiritual consciousness. This process was abnormally smooth, and there was no delay. All of a sudden, Yu Yuan sensed a wisp of awareness appearing in the nether river where he was sitting, as if it were a projection. He opened his eyes and saw a tall man in heavy green armor in the river of terror. His face was resolute, and his whole body emitted a domineering aura that made all living things bow down. I'm called the Mingdu Ghost King. The man grinned, and there was an indescribable confidence and carefreeness. Yu Yuan, you were sent to the Land of Terror so that you could condense your Yin spirit at this moment. It was to prevent me from becoming a specter god. Mingdu. Yu Yuan's heart trembled. He tried to sense the source of the Yin vein's consciousness, but he realized that the source of the Yin vein, which he had communicated with previously, was nowhere to be found. It can't come for now. As if seeing through his intentions, the Mingdu Ghost King continued to smile and say, "Don't think of doing anything to me. This is just a projection, and it doesn't have any additional soul power." As he spoke, he glanced at the scabbard that Yu Yuan had summoned. With the scabbard in hand, Yu Yuan had secretly summoned the sword spirit. This meant that Yu Yuan knew his weakness and was prepared to fight. I'm here to tell you that you, Hanch, should have died. The Mingdu Ghost King suddenly retracted his smile, and said word by word, Hanch, in order to step onto the path of cultivation, how many sins did you commit in the later stages of your life? The number of lives that died because of the poison you created is uncountable. For your own selfish interests, you, who fell into the evil Tao, were the malignant tumor of Howren back then. Your senior brother, your direct disciple, the righteous people of the three high sects, the Devil's Palace, and the Goblin Temple, wanted you to die, so you died. What's wrong with that? Because you should have died. These powerful words came out of Mingdu's mouth. In Yu Yuan's mind, there was a sudden explosion of thunder, and lightning tore through the heavens and earth. If you want to step into the Yin spirit realm, you have to overcome this trial of your heart first. Mingdu snorted coldly. Breaking into the Yin spirit realm was like going through a trial of rebirth. If he was not careful, he would be doomed eternally, and his body and soul would be destroyed. The Mingdu Ghost King cast a spell, and a projection descended. Every word he said turned into a demon in Yu Yuan's mind, and exploded in his mind. This caused his path to becoming a Yin spirit to be filled with endless dangers. You have lived 2 lives, but you have only cultivated once. I want to see if you have the ability to overcome the demon in your heart and truly form a Yin spirit. Chapter 786. Because of Mingdu Ghost King's words, Yu Yuan's small world in her sea of consciousness became turbulent. Boom! Their thoughts exploded in Yu Yuan's mind like divine thunder from the 9 heavens, causing her to be in so much pain that she wished she was dead. You deserve to die. You are the cancer of Howren heaven and earth. You have degenerated into an evil demon and are sinful. Mingdu Ghostly King's words became his thoughts. With his soul remembrance and spiritual consciousness, they formed bolts of divine lightning that exploded in his soul. The 3 souls of heaven, earth, and man were all affected. They were all trembling violently as they endured the attacks of the divine thunder. Crack! There were also bolts of lightning that tore through the sky. They swam among them as if they wanted to tear open his skull. At this moment, the piercing pain in his soul was countless times more intense than the injuries caused by the cultivation of the fiend body refinement art. His mind was about to explode and his soul was about to shatter. Yu Yuan opened his eyes. They were filled with blood vessels and bits of bloody light shot out. Every bit of bloody light was his essence and spirit. They were the crystallization of his refined soul consciousness and Yin energy. In the Netherworld River, the Mingdu Ghostly King's tall soul projection had a cold expression. He stared at him with a cold expression as if he was looking at a sinful person. He did not speak anymore. He knew that he had achieved his goal. Yu Yuan, who had not experienced the attack of the heart demon, was reminded of the painful memories of his previous life. He used some of the deeds of Hanch in his previous life to turn into a heart demon. He took the opportunity to kill the current Yu Yuan when he was condensing his Yin spirit. Using the past to erase the present life was one of Mingdu's exquisite killing moves. Yu Yuan endured the pain in his mind and immediately realized that what the source of the Yin vein said to the Mingdu Ghostly King was true. He had just communicated with the source of the Yin vein and was in a good state to condense his Yin spirit when Mingdu used the Netherworld River to enter. Furthermore, he revealed his identity as Hanch in his previous life. Through this, he knew that the Mingdu Ghostly King could indeed spy on the source of the Yin vein. He could even send a projection through any Netherworld river. It was no wonder that the source of the Yin vein was so wary of the Mingdu Ghostly King and made an agreement with him that the Mingdu Ghostly King would die. The Mingdu Ghostly King was seen as a poison by the source of the Yin vein. Then, was he also a poison to the Howren heaven and earth? As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, a Yin Qi storm suddenly formed in his sea of consciousness. The giant storm was filled with his self-denial and self-doubt. Countless chaotic thoughts gathered in clusters, causing the storm to become even more turbulent and chaotic. Heart demons work. He suddenly reacted. Mingdu Ghostly King's few words had evoked his inner demon. Bolts of divine lightning, bolts of lightning that tore through heaven and earth, and even the turbulent storm of Yin energy that had formed right now, all of these powers originated from him. It was not the Soul King's power art. It was not the Ghostly King's power was not soul. The advancement of a cultivator was often accompanied by the awakening of their inner demons at some major junctures. This would lead to many unpredictable consequences. For example, soul's annihilation. In his previous realm, he didn't touch upon the refinement of the soul, so his heart devil had never been triggered and never appeared. This time, when he tried to break through to the Yin God realm, he finally started to refine his soul. Boom! Another bolt of divine lightning created by his will exploded in his earthly soul. At this moment, Yu Yuan realized that strands of refined soul remembrance suddenly collapsed due to the divine lightning and turned into strands of spiritual sense. The strands of soul remembrance that he had spent so much effort to refine were all dispersing. I have lost control of my Tao heart. My cultivation is about to disperse. His expression changed. He tried his best to stabilize his heart realm and set things right. However, no matter how hard he tried and how he used the great Yin soul art to regroup, his soul remembrance was still scattered into strands of spiritual sense. Spiritual sense appeared in his mind and turned into divine lightning that destroyed his sea of consciousness. It increased the power of the Yin energy storm. He felt fear. If this situation continued, his realm would drop quickly. If he fell to the initial stage of the subtle realm, his spiritual sense would dissipate. If he fell to the breaking profound realm, his soul might even shatter and he would die. Who would have thought that the Mingdu ghostly king's projection would cause his sea of consciousness to crumble just by saying a few words? Could it be that he had died just like that? Was there no way to break it? What to do? At this moment, Yu Yuan was burning with anxiety. He quickly realized the severity of the situation. As he watched his soul tremble, he felt a splitting headache. He faintly felt that his soul could be completely eroded by this wave of heart demons. Heart demon, it arose because of me, it was born because of me, it was caused by my power. He quickly realized that no one could help him in the current situation. Now, even if the source of the Yin vein chased Mingdu away and replaced Mingdu here, it still wouldn't be able to solve the problem of his heart demon. If he couldn't, then his path of cultivation would come to an end. Even though he had lived 2 lives, he was still going to be destroyed in a single day. When I was Hanch, for the first half of my life, I focused on studying the essence of medicinal pills, searching for ways to circulate the meridians and step onto the path of cultivation. At the end of my life, I knew that my lifespan was limited, so I found another way to explore the art of poisonous pills. I was stubborn to the extreme and accidentally killed many people, causing many to die because of me. Those sins were indeed caused by me. I was indeed the one who did it. I once made a mistake, I once stepped onto the path of evil. I was like that. That was me. Scene after scene appeared in his mind. He pondered and reflected on himself, scrutinizing the actions of Hanch at the end of his life. There are millions of Taos. The righteous Tao is Tao, so is the demonic Tao, and so is the evil Tao. Countless cultivators had encountered the invasion of their heart demons when they were transforming their earthly souls and condensing their Yin spirit. They had all overcome all difficulties. The tyrants of the demonic Tao, whose hands were covered in blood, could condense their Yin spirits. The giants of the evil Tao, who destroyed cities and countries and cultivated with the souls and corpses of all living beings, could they not also achieve Tao? The great Tao was emotionless. There was no distinction between good and evil, only the recognition of oneself. All kinds of thoughts appeared in Yu Yuan's mind. He examined himself, looking at himself from the perspective of a bystander, looking at himself from his previous life with the eyes of this life's Yu Yuan. Slowly sorting out, he gradually calmed down. He no longer doubted himself, no longer denied himself, but accepted it. Good and bad, good and evil, the kindness of his previous life, and the depravity at the end of his life, they were all him. He opened his heart to accept the other side of himself, the sins he had committed, and the extreme madness he had once been. When he was no longer obsessed with right and wrong, and no longer doubted himself, he was surprised to find that the chaotic supernatural ability that filled the storm of Yin Qi that suddenly appeared was quickly fading away. All of a sudden, he came to a realization. New thoughts appeared in his mind. He looked at himself more objectively, looking at Zhong Chichen's plot and the betrayal of his direct disciple. Strangely, the divine lightning that kept forming and the tearing lightning also disappeared. because of the Netherdew Ghost King's words, the small world in his sea of consciousness that had almost collapsed gradually calmed down. His earth soul was injured, and his soul thought was shattered. But as long as the will of the source of the Yin meridian was still there, and the Yin Qi was abundant, it could still gather again. The foundation of the great Tao was still there, and the origin of the three souls was not damaged. Feeling the stability of the small world in his sea of consciousness and its calmness, he comprehended another principle. As long as one stepped onto the path of cultivation, all of their past experiences could become a heart demon, including the previous life. The heart demon could erupt at any moment. The more one tried to escape, the more one was unwilling to face it, and the more one tried to suppress it. When it erupted at a certain moment, it would be even more powerful. For example, this time, if the Netherdew Ghost King had not pointed out his identity as Haunch in his previous life, if those words had not evoked his heart demon and caused him to almost collapse, he might have been able to successfully condense his Yin spirit. However, the doubts, self-blame, and hatred he had for the unbearable experience at the end of Haunch's life would eventually evolve into an even more terrifying heart demon in the future. It could be in the soul-wandering realm, the sun god realm, or even the freedom realm. At that time, once the heart demon erupted, its power would probably be 10 times or even 100 times more ferocious than it was now. He might not even have time to examine himself and react before his soul was blown away by the power of the heart demon, and his body and soul would be destroyed. I have to thank the Netherdew Ghost King. With this thought, he opened his eyes. There was no longer any color of blood in them, and no blood light sputtered. Instead, they became as bright and clear as a mirror, as if the Netherdew Ghost King's projection was reflected in his mind. Chapter 787. Yu Yuan's heart was untainted. Pure Yin Qi slowly seeped into his soul from the small world in his consciousness. His spiritual consciousness that was gradually dissipating gathered and condensed again, turning into streaks of flowing soul thoughts. His soul remembrance was reborn and flowed through his earthly soul, allowing him to immediately relax. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth as he looked at the Netherworld River. The Mingdu Ghost King used his great ability and landed in the river. Thank you, Senior Mingdu, for helping me to capture the flaw in my soul in advance and turn it into a heart demon before refining and eliminating it. Yu Yuan cupped his fists and said sincerely. If the Mingdu Ghost King did not appear and use words to draw out the heart demon, even if he cultivated the Yin spirit and advanced to a new realm, his soul would still be flawed. This flaw would explode at any moment in the future and cause him to fall into the abyss of eternal damnation. The speed at which you crush the heart demon is so fast that I'm shocked. The Mingdu Ghost King's tall soul projection gradually sank to the bottom of the river. Under the riverbed, billions of dark shadows appeared one after another like shattered souls of all living beings. The billions of souls seemed to carry his tall soul shadow, allowing him to speak through space. I don't know much about you. I only know about your past life through your words. The Mingdu Ghost King was not discouraged at all and said casually, That's why I can only draw out one heart demon of yours. The path of seeking the Tao is full of twists and turns. There is definitely more than one heart demon hidden in your heart. He shook his head lightly. You've passed this hurdle. At the bottom of the river, billions of shattered souls surged and turned into an abyss of the galaxy, swallowing the Mingdu Ghost King's soul projection. Seeing that he could not break Yu Yuan's Tao heart with the heart demon, he did not waste time and did not waste his breath. Because even if it was him who cast a spell through the Netherworld River and sent his soul projection here, he would still need to use up his soul power. He was weak to begin with and was far from his peak condition. Furthermore, He had to divert his attention to prevent the source of the unveil from spying on him and prevent the source of the unveil from knowing the soul spells he had comprehended. At the bottom of the river, his soul shadow finally disappeared completely. Then, another wisp of will slowly emerged from the depths of the 9 hells. Yu Yuan instantly knew that the will of the source of the unveil had descended once again after the dark north ghostly king left. He was poisoned because of me. The poison accumulated for a long time. I have already lost control of him. The will of the source of the unveil was born in this small world. His 8 ancient subordinates were found by the white-robed spectre and returned to the land of terror. His body was also being escorted across the starry river. Remember, the only thing you can use to injure him is that scabbard and the sword soul that is branded in your body. White-robed ghost. Yu Yuan was shocked. White Robe, step out of the land of terror and pass on his message. White Robe has always been working for him and is loyal to him. Understood. After a brief exchange, Yu Yuan cleared his mind of all distracting thoughts and continued to cultivate his Yin spirit. This time, there was no longer any obstruction. The vast Yin Qi from the source of the Yin vein nourished his soul and healed its injuries. It sped up the transformation of his earthly soul and refined his wisps of soul will. Even though he was underground, he could vaguely sense how great the commotion was outside. He remained unmoved and focused wholeheartedly on the transformation of his earthly soul. On the surface, a cold wind that sounded like the wails of billions of ghosts appeared in the distance. A tombstone that looked like an iceberg surrounded by countless ghosts and souls appeared in the dark sky. The tombstone was still dozens of kilometers away, but the souls of all living beings in this area were filled with coldness. The Yin spirits of the experts from the Tianyuan continent in the majestic palace floating in the air seemed to be trembling. Even the light screen of spirit power that enveloped the Heaven Palace was unable to completely cancel out the extremely cold aura of the icy tombstone. Mo Yen and Enziching, who were wearing the purple divine armor, were very close to the tombstone. They immediately stopped talking when the tombstone appeared. The two of them were completely focused on the enormous icy tombstone. Under the sky, the towering tombstone supported by millions of ghosts was simply too dazzling. The Frigid Abyss Ghost King's aura was also shocking. The Frigid Abyss Ghost King. Ghosts and souls that didn't belong to any faction that were scattered in the distance exclaimed in low voices, their voices filled with respect. These ghosts were all at the heavenly ghost level at the very least. Some of them were even dark ghosts without titles. They had instinctively sensed that something was wrong because of the commotion in the Bone Sect's territory, and thus gathered here fearlessly. Then, they discovered that the Bone Sect had turned a blind eye to their arrival. It seemed that it knew that they were only bystanders, and wouldn't do anything in this battle between the Ghoul Kings. In the ruins of the Een mountain range, the Bone Sect sat in a hole that led to the underground. Its sparkling white body exuded an arrogant and unruly aura. It wasn't in a hurry to attack the palace floating in the air above its head. Ignoring Enziching and Mo Yan's whispers, it sat there and waited for the Ghoul King to arrive. Bone Sect, I'm here. The Frigid Abyss Ghost King's cold voice echoed out from the enormous icy tombstone. As the tombstone approached, countless wisps of frigid soul light danced on its surface like lightning bolt. The soul light interwove into some kind of pattern that was compatible with the Tao of Frost, and forcibly changed the material structure of the tombstone. The tombstone, which looked like a piece of cold, hard crystal, suddenly morphed into a frost giant that was about 30 meters tall. The Frigid Abyss Ghost King. Gazes fixed on the frost giant in front of them, and they recognized it to be the Frigid Abyss Ghost King. According to the legends, the Frigid Abyss Ghost King was also an outsider. His specific origins were too distant to be traced. They only knew that after he died in the outside world, someone had erected an icy tombstone for him. The frigid abyss ghost king was buried under this icy tombstone, and there were inscriptions on it. Not many people knew that after his death, an incomplete nether soul had quietly slipped into the land of terror. Then, starting from a weak ghoul, it rapidly grew stronger, and gradually became a ghoul king. After becoming a ghoul king, the frigid abyss ghost king went out, found his burial place, and brought this icy tombstone back to the land of terror. This icy tombstone became his sharp blade and his new body. Of course, he erased the inscriptions on the tombstone, and they no longer existed. On one hand, he didn't want others to learn of his past identity through the inscriptions. On the other hand, the existence of the inscriptions meant that he was dead, or had died once. He didn't agree. That's a 10,000-year-old frosty soul, frosty crystal. A cultivator from the primal Yang sect in the palace floating high in the sky sensed the frigid abyss ghost king's aura, and his expression flickered. That icy tombstone. Is it a frosty soul, frosty crystal from the frigid depths of the 9 hells? Heavens, how can there be such a large piece of frosty soul, frosty crystal? An icy tombstone, the frigid depths of the 9 hells, the frigid abyss ghost king. Another cultivator from the lightning element sect muttered in a low voice. Chu Yao also looked shocked. Don't tell me that the legendary burial place of this frigid abyss ghost king is in the frigid depths of the 9 hells? Chao Jiazi nodded slightly. Even though the fact that he dared to call himself the frigid abyss ghost king is somewhat arrogant, it's also a testament to his origin. It's just that very few people would think that he died in the frigid depths of the 9 hells, and was infiltrated by the frigid chi. The wisp of his soul that escaped was also infected by the frigid toxins of the frigid depths of the 9 hells. The frigid toxins made him die in there, but they eventually made him what he was. It was because of his constant struggle against the frigid toxins that he was able to make rapid breakthroughs in the land of terror. Eventually, he refined the frigid toxins and became a ghoul king. Chao Jiazi explained the origin of the frigid abyss ghost king. I can't believe that a wisp of his soul managed to escape from the frigid depths of the 9 hells after being infected by the frigid toxins. The cultivators from the lightning element sect were filled with deep veneration. After becoming a ghoul king, he was able to return to the frigid depths of the 9 hells and bring this icy tombstone made of frosty soul, frosty crystal back to the land of terror. Who was the frigid abyss ghost king before he died? He asked. Chao Jiazi shook his head with a smile, but didn't say anything. His smile made the people behind him realize that he must know the frigid abyss ghost king's true identity. Since he didn't say anything, it must be because he had a tacit understanding with the frigid abyss ghost king. It made sense. As the next sect master of the Xuantianzong sect, Chao Jiazi had come to the land of terror in person to help the frigid abyss break through to the ghost god realm. How could he not know about the frigid abyss ghost king's past life? Chao Jiazi must know where the frigid abyss ghost king had practiced cultivation before his death, and what achievements he had made. Don't make wild guesses. If the frigid abyss can become a ghost god, you'll know who he used to be and why he died. Chao Jiazi reminded them, seeing that they were all busy thinking about the frigid abyss ghost king's identity and these irrelevant things. Those people immediately dispelled many of their guesses. So what if you're here? The white bone, which had been sitting for a long time, slowly rose to its feet, its emerald eyes filled with disdain. Didn't your soul feel pain? Not long ago, a wisp of the frigid abyss ghost king's soul had been burned to death by his white flames in the depths of the earth. Bone, those flames of yours can hurt my soul, but they can't penetrate my body, which is made of the frost soul frost crystal. The frost giant that the frigid abyss ghost king had transformed into didn't have a delicate face. It only had a cold, flat face, which made it look very strange and abrupt. My soul is inside. You can't touch it. How can you hurt me? The Frost Soul Frost Crystal in the frigid abyss of the Nine Serenities was regarded as the ultimate frost treasure in the Howran heaven and earth. Anyone who practiced frost incantations would regard the Frost Soul Frost Crystal as a rare treasure that could only be condensed at the bottom of the frigid abyss of the Nine Serenities, where it could absorb pure frost power over time. If a piece of the Frost Soul Frost Crystal could stay at the bottom of the frigid abyss for hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years without being discovered, it would be able to absorb frost power for hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years. Since the age of the Frost Soul Frost Crystal was different, the might and amount of frost power it contained would be different as well. Frost Soul Frost Crystals that were less than 100 years old were already extremely rare. A 1,000-year-old Frost Soul Frost Crystal would be the best material for the elders of the frigid Een sect to refine their yang spirits in the future. It could be said that a piece of 10,000-year-old Frost Soul Frost Crystal was priceless. This piece of Frost Soul Frost Crystal that the frigid Abyss Ghost King had brought out of the frigid abyss of the Nine Serenities and refined it into his body was not only incomparably large, but also 10,000-year-old Frost Soul Frost Crystal. This time, he had brought his soul into this tombstone, which was made of 10,000-year-old Frost Soul Frost Crystal, and was confident that Bone's bone-white flames wouldn't be able to destroy it. Bone let out a cold harumph and said, "If I'm not mistaken, what you want is..." Before he could finish, the baleful demon cauldron suddenly flew out of the hole beside him. The baleful demon cauldron. Everyone's gazes were fixed on the baleful demon cauldron as they exclaimed in shock. Cold light flashed from the cold Abyss Ghost King's body of ice and stone. The self-proclaimed Cold Abyss Ghost King was clearly excited as he greedily examined the baleful demon cauldron. More accurately, he was greedily eyeing something inside the baleful demon cauldron. There seemed to be something inside the baleful demon cauldron that made him drool, and he was willing to give up everything to obtain it. "You know quite a lot, Bone," Bone said with a strange laugh. Yu Yuan was indeed hiding inside the baleful demon cauldron earlier. Yu Yuan must be inside the baleful demon cauldron as well. He's here in his true body. Why isn't he hiding inside the baleful demon cauldron like a coward? Is he going to come out? The cultivators from the Tianyuan continent standing behind Chao Jiazi criticized him with cold faces. They all assumed that Yu Yuan was inside the baleful demon cauldron at this moment, and that Yu Yuan couldn't wait any longer because of the cold Abyss Ghost King's arrival. Inside the palace, the cultivators from the Tianyuan continent were filled with malice toward Yu Yuan. Mo Yen looked meaningfully at Enziching the moment he saw the baleful demon cauldron appear. Then, he disappeared into the blade. His voice rang out from within the blade. "Missin, I'd like to know which side you're on." Enziching frowned in silence. The various Ghost Kings clearly wanted to join forces and attack Bai Gu. They wanted to kill Bai Gu to prevent future troubles. Yu Yuan had fought side by side with Bai Gu, so she couldn't predict what would happen to her. She represented the Blood God and the Chuling Ghoul King. The Chuling Ghoul King wanted her to wait and see what would happen when he arrived. However, the people of the Tianyuan continent viewed Yu Yuan as a traitor of the Howran continent, and Yu Yuan didn't deny it. If she acted now, she wouldn't be able to wash her hands of it. Whoosh! An icy blue figure with the upper body of a beautiful woman and the lower body of a scorpion suddenly appeared from within the baleful demon cauldron. Then, it stared at the cold Abyss Ghost King, who was in the form of an icy tombstone, with bone-chilling eyes. "Hee, it really is you," the cold Abyss Ghost King laughed. "You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.